Hey everyone, you're listening to the official podcast of 4playernetwork.com. Check us out at that address for everything you need to know about our community, monthly giveaways, and nightly live streams. You can even support us on Patreon at patreon.com/4player. And last but not least, you can catch the live recordings of these podcasts every single Thursday night on our Twitch channel. We hope to see you there. Enjoy. Why don't we open with Welcome to 4Player Podcast, everybody. Let's talk about this water boiling shit happening in Austin right now. How's everybody doing with their bathing?
It's not that fucking interesting. And I work in an office where people cannot stop talking about water.
Have you bathed?
Why shower?
Do you work for Austin Water? No, I stopped because I wasn't sure what the rules are on the water boil.
Wait, really?
Look how scraggly I am. I haven't shaved or anything.
I definitely haven't shaved, but I probably wouldn't have shaved.
No, that's
shaved with a bottle of Ozarka.
I didn't stop bathing. I'm fine. I'm cool.
Awesome.
I'm clean.
Anyways, welcome to the show, everybody. If you're joining us live on twitch.tv/4player podcast tonight, welcome. As you can see, this is a 3-player podcast tonight. We are down 2 people. No Nolan tonight. No Chris Davis. So I will warn you, if you're watching us live, this might be a bit of a shit show in terms of like running the camera and the overlays and the footage and all that. But God damn it, I'm going to try the best I can to make this a smooth viewing, listening experience for you guys. This is episode 576. We are going to talk a lot about some of the games we played in our most recent Spooktacular that we did last Saturday. We played 12 hours straight of horror games, and there was some pretty cool stuff in there that we're going to talk about. We're also going to talk about Calibur 6 and the return of Obra Dinn, which I know Brad and Krispy are both very excited to talk about. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. It's the best game we're talking about this evening.
It's the best game.
It's pretty cool.
All right, cool. Well, we'll get to that at the end. A little bit of housekeeping. I do want to mention a couple things. One, if you are a supporter on Patreon or Twitch, I guess I should phrase this by saying, if you are a supporter on Twitch, you should now have access, assuming your account is linked to your Discord account, you should now have access to our Patreon or patron channel in Discord, which is now called Supporters, where if you want to ask a question on the show during the community segment, you can throw it in there. I will say this, we are now opening it up to more people, so there's a higher potential for us not being able to get through all of the questions every week. But if you support us on Twitch and not on Patreon and you want to get us a question in, you can do that by joining us at discord.gg/4player, jumping in the supporters channel, and I would probably recommend, if you want, especially if you want to make sure it's seen, tag me, just do @Nick in that channel, and I'll see it, and I'll pin it, and then I'll read the question during the community segment, if we have time. Also, it is Red Dead launch night. Unfortunately, we won't be talking about Red Dead on this podcast. That'll be next week. But if you stay tuned after the show, Nolan will be live playing the first couple hours of Red Dead tonight, and starting at 8 a.m. tomorrow, I'll be live all day playing
Is that game like 100 hours long?
It's like 60 if you do the main quest, but there's a bunch. And apparently there's like a massive epilogue afterwards. And I don't know what that entails, but we'll talk about it, I'm sure, when we get to that point. But yeah.
For Red Dead?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
games are too long, man. You know what my favorite game length is? 25 hours.
I think that's absolutely fucking right.
25 hours.
I was happy with Assassin's Creed Odyssey because last night I got to a point and I was like, this is probably it. This is probably the last time I play Odyssey until I finish Red Dead. But I hit a point last night in the story where I was like, this feels like a kind of a turning point for the story, and it feels like a good like end of chapter, like probably a good place to stop if I know I'm not going to get back to it for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Like a season break?
Yeah, kind of like that. So like there was kind of like a build and like a reveal, and then it was like, okay, now the game is kind of different going forward. Not different, but like you're doing something a little bit different. So it's kind of like, okay, this feels like a nice place to stop and move forward. So yeah,
Spider-Man was a good length.
Yeah, Spider-Man was a fantastic length. Like, and there's holy shit. Oh god, you might hear that a few times tonight because it's over there.
Hey,
so thank you, Victus, for subscribing. We appreciate it.
75 months in a row.
That's too much, man.
Yeah. Stop.
Wait,
now.
which part? 75 months in a row or 60 hours in a game?
75 months.
But yeah, we talked a lot about game length. I think we were talking about crunch a lot last week, and that'll probably come up a few times tonight. But God, I was just thinking about it. Like, imagine how I would imagine that crunch culture wouldn't be as big of an issue if like developers kind of like set their expectations for like oh my god, thank you Gravitas for subscribing. Like
here they come.
Yeah, okay. We did this to ourselves. Like imagine how bad like crunch culture probably wouldn't be so bad if like developers like were intentionally aiming for like a 30-hour length on a game, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's no reason for Assassin's Creed Odyssey to be as fucking massive as it is. I feel like if they had cut it in half, it'd still be a huge.
But
fucking
that's
game.
because this is what made. I mean, because if your game is like 80 hours long and it's not a JRPG, you're probably just gonna get a good score, right? Because it's like there's so much in it, it's a fucking 10. That shit happens all the time, man. It's crazy. It's bullshit.
It is crazy. It is crazy. So
just modern AAA game expectations.
exactly. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about crunch culture during the show. So let's move on. Like I said, we want to be done by 11. We want to make sure we have ample time for Nolan to get set up and play Red Dead tonight. So we're gonna move right along. We do have a lot of stuff to talk about. Last thing I want to mention is, of course, KNC Cito is our supporter spotlight for this month, and we're gonna be reading his 4-player minute during the second segment of the show.
So that we actually have 4-player minutes.
We do have 4. That's perfect. He fills the slot for the 4-player minute this week. That's
it's
fantastic.
like you're right here on the couch with us.
I know, it's fantastic. Thank you, KNC Cito. But I do want to announce the supporter spotlight for next month. I've already reached out to him. I've already got his answers to all of our questions. It's Dr. Waltz. I don't know if he's in chat right now. His name is Andrew, but we'll be introducing him at the beginning of next show, or during the community segment of next show, and reading his answers to those questions throughout the month of November. Oh, look, Dr. Waltz.
Dr. Waltz
in chat right now. Thank you, Dr. Waltz.
A doctor.
He is also a supporter on Patreon. A reminder: if you're a Twitch subscriber or a Patreon supporter, you're entered in the drawing. It just so happens the first 2 we've had have both been patrons. So thank you for supporting us on Patreon. Let's get to it. I want to read some feedback from our last episode, or in this case, maybe last few episodes. Fuzzy Turd says, oh my god, let me get the handle on the mouse over here. Where's the thing? It says, this is regarding the Harry Potter episode. I am a little behind because I try to listen to the podcast exclusively when I'm making the breakfast at my family's hotel, so that I always have guaranteed entertainment when I do. Anyways, you guys were talking about detective games and how they, for the most part...
He either doesn't make breakfast very often or he makes it very quickly.
That's true. He says, anyway, you guys were talking about detective games and how they, for the most part, don't require critical thinking, and you began trying to talk about the few games that do it right. I was astonished that nobody mentioned the Ace Attorney games. I just started them, and I am thoroughly enjoying how you're forced to connect the dots as you go. You have to pay attention to every little detail in the evidence to find holes in the testimonies, and you get that iconic finger point. Shinji Mikami is fantastic.
Okay. As a person who is a fan of Ace Attorney, I'll say this. I think Ace Attorney is most successful because it has great characters and great writing and an amazing localization. It's very entertaining. It's very funny. But the mechanics of an Ace Attorney game, especially when you're outside of the courtroom in what you would call like maybe more of a detective investigator sort of mode, is just like not great gameplay. It's going from place to place to place, making sure you've clicked everything and going, where the fuck do I go? I guess I'll go back here, and hoping that the next scene triggers. It from a gameplay standpoint, it's kind of weak. And in the courtroom, it's I mean, the gameplay there is problematic too, because there oftentimes you'll know when a character's lying, but you haven't done stuff in the right order.
I think they're still trying to find that sweet spot too. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Story-wise, it's a great detective game. Gameplay-wise, not so much.
I think we're still waiting for that game, like something more. I think we're still waiting for that game that's like a super AAA like adventure game, like a Batman Arkham game or something, where it's like you're super enveloped in the world, but like also getting the detective stuff.
I think where
really
the innovation is going to come from is going to be from games like we're talking about tonight and stuff like Her Story. Honestly,
yeah, Obra Dinn definitely goes on that list.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask. That is a kind of a detective
and it goes
game,
pretty high towards the top. Actually.
Wonderful. Well, I can't wait to talk about that. We'll get to it shortly. Equack says, Nick sounded horrified about eating raw pasta last week. It's actually something I do a lot. Whole wheat tastes better raw than normal. Wow, that's kind of... I don't know if that seems like a bit extreme. Anyway,
actually, they both taste like butt.
Spaghetti, my favorite, can be a bit risky though, because sometimes you will accidentally bite on the short piece that is facing vertically up towards the roof of your mouth and jam it up there like a nail.
This guy is not winning the game.
Wait, so he's talking about like dried pasta?
Yeah, he's talking about like raw
pasta. He
said
raw, not dried.
Wait, what's the difference?
What do you mean?
Raw pasta. Wait. Oh, are you talking... Okay.
He's talking about hard.
He's talking
pasta.
about like the pasta you would go out and buy at the grocery store,
Right.
in its packaging.
Is raw dried pasta.
Raw
Yes.
dried pasta. Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't assume. I wasn't thinking of like raw pasta.
Rah.
I do
Raw,
that
raw.
decent farts. I don't throw it at the ceiling. I throw it at everything.
I used to do that occasionally, and then I realized that it was just not. It was kind of terrible, so I stopped. Personally, I don't know.
I don't think I've ever tried.
You should do it. It's a.
Actually, no, that's not true. There was a what's that Italian restaurant? Maybe they have them around here where they
Olive Garden.
No, yeah. Where they like if you get a drink, if you get a soda, like your straw is a piece of pasta.
Oh, really?
There was
That's gross.
there was a place like that.
Does
in
your
Tampa.
straw just become limp eventually?
Oh,
No. It's dried pasta. Like it definitely can
Does it become,
withstand
like,
a dinner's
gooey?
worth of no.
No, it's dried. It's dried
It's
bread.
dried.
Dried
It's,
pasta.
I know,
it's like
but,
one
like-
big long like tube of pasta that's dried. And no, it doesn't like. I mean, maybe if you let it soak in soda like overnight, it would. But
I'm with you, Crispy. That sounds cool to me.
like sometimes I used to like eat the ends of it, and I'd immediately regret it because it's dried pasta.
Yeah,
It's
like well, like
disgusting. Why would you
do
that?
it, and you're like, why am I doing this to myself?
All right, grab a beer, says.
Are you gonna read this one?
No.
Okay. Anyways, glad crunch culture is starting to become a bigger thing in the mainstream. I think he means bigger topic in the mainstream. Similar, albeit mirrored, trends are happening in the restaurant, supermarket, and veterinary industries where they'll schedule less and less people because it reduces hours and seems to work just as well, quote unquote. There is just no empathy from higher ups as they are never there to witness the chaos from bare-boning a staff. I understand that 1, all companies are destined to shut down. 2, maximizing profits is very important. And 3, lazy coworkers exist. But as you guys said, life is finite. Companies who recognize this moral value and adapt it to their business model shine bright in my eyes. Sorry for the rant, but it's just a shitty thing happening in most industries and needs to be recognized. Back to games, just finished Symphony of the Night for the first time because of Brad's Moaner Boner for it.
Moaner boner?
That's a new one. Moaner Boner. Played it straight through in one sitting due to it being simply amazing. Thank you, 4PP, for all of your recommendations. You're very welcome.
If he finished it in one sitting, I doubt he found the second castle.
Oh shit!
So you should maybe find an FAQ online.
I'm picturing him listening to this at home and going, wait, second castle?
Second castle.
What the
It
fuck?
happens. It
Yeah.
happens.
Dude,
I mean,
One
one
day-
sitting sounds like.
that game's incredible.
What is the consensus? I know they're doing a new...
Yeah,
they're releasing
it's out
it.
now.
It's
I
out.
Is it like a good version to...
It is
the game.
it is bare bones, but it is Rondo of Blood and Symphony of the Night on a PS4, which you can't really get.
You should
Rondo
get it, Nick.
places anymore.
I mean, I feel like I should just... It doesn't matter what platform I play it as long as I play, because I feel like it's something I should
Oh
definitely
yeah,
add to my...
yeah. No. There's nothing wrong with that version at all. Get it,
Wonderful.
definitely.
Cool.
And if you get it now, I think you can get it for the pre-order price if you're PlayStation Plus for like $16.
Yeah.
So you should do that.
You should do it
I
now.
might do that. I might do that if I ever have time to
You should
play
do it, Nick.
games other than Red Dead ever again. I will say this: you're right. Everything you said about crunch culture is true. I think it's still important that you support. I think there's been this question kind of floating around. I saw it go to Jason Schreier too, because Jason Schreier did the.
Should you buy Red Dead?
Yeah, should you buy it? Given the, and it's kind of like
He talks about that at the end of his big article.
yeah, and it's kind of like I think you need to be informed about it, but at the same time, you people pour their hearts and souls into making this game, and they sacrificed a
bled.
lot to make it.
They sweated.
And
They cried over this game.
I think maybe that's kind of for one person from one person to the next to decide for themselves. But we'll talk more about it because we're going to do in the second segment. We're going to revisit some of the stuff that came to light from Jason Schreier's article because that was a big topic of discussion on last week's show. Thank you for your thoughts on it. The metal button says, since you dicks were talking about entries.
Older
entries for Assassin's Creed on the podcast. Yes, Nolan was talking about Rogue last week, but he's not here. I'm using this as a platform to vent my frustration. I only played Assassin's Creed 1 and 2 back in the day, and I haven't kept up with the releases since. I'm itching to play current games, but my OCD won't allow me to skip any entries. Don't remember anything relating to the story, so I'm doing a series run and plowing through all the games to catch up to the current release.
I don't know.
First of all, let me just stop right
man.
there and say, I feel like I'm a huge Assassin's Creed fan. This is not a series that is good for series runs.
Dude, it's not. It is not.
It's
not.
I love the series, but it is one of those things. If you try and play all these back to back, you will burn out so fucking fast. And I think that would be a shame because it would prevent you from getting to the later entries in the series, which I think are getting dramatically better. So that's kind of a shame. But anyways, he says, I have to put in so much fucking research in figuring out what game fits where in the series. Frustrating that a lot of the games in the series aren't numbered, but rather Assassin's Creed subtitle. Fucking number that shit, Ubisoft. Not sure if anyone else has this issue, but it grinds my gears. With love,
man. Especially when like years later that they're gonna number one of them, and it's gonna be
confusing as fuck.
It's gonna be based on like all of them, you know. So
yeah, I mean,
I hate when they do that.
It's strange when you see a series bounce around between numbering and then stop numbering. Yeah. It's like I think Resident Evil kind of does the same thing. It's really frustrating,
especially when like the numbering doesn't even seem to indicate like
the
main
order.
Series entry.
It's like when they named
versus side series. They're just like making the shit up as they go.
It's like when they made named Mario Kart 7.
Yeah.
When none of the other ones before that were numbered.
It's the 7th Mario Kart.
It's also weird that like, you know, look at Red Dead Redemption like 2.
Yeah.
But the prequel, it's kind of like maybe you should have just given it a subtitle.
Not only is it a prequel, but it is the third game technically, so they should have just gave it another R.
Yeah. I think also in this case, especially in the case we all talk about Assassin's Creed being, you know, annualized, but there's so many games in the series now. Like at this point, if they numbered it, it'd be like Assassin's Creed 23 or something stupid, and it's
would be 22.
And the next one would be as a company, they don't want to they don't want to shine a light on the fact that like yes, there are so many of these fucking games. You know what I mean?
Did Red Dead Revolver have a character named Red? I think
the main character was
the main character is named Red.
It's like Red Marlowe, isn't it?
I did not know that.
Yeah,
which this obviously Redemption didn't have a character named Red,
so it's like
and
why
it
is
makes
it even
this name of the game even weirder?
Yeah,
I agree. Tobley says the discussion around multiplayer revival made me excited about the non-existent prospect that Valve would release Left 4 Dead 3, which is part of Valve's perpetual fear of the number 3. It's also made me think of Dark Messiah of Might and Magic for some reason. Even though it's not a great multiplayer game, the feel of the combat in that game stuck with me though.
That was pretty
cool. I didn't even know that game had multiplayer. I mean, I've never played that game, so that's probably
it did have multiplayer. But the feel of the combat is really, really awesome in those games. That game.
What generation was that? Was that PS2?
No. Well, there's a bad 360 port. Definitely play that on PC.
Gotcha. Moving right along. Haste. We've met Haste.
That was one where, like, a few years ago, I turned it on, the 360 version, and there were still people playing the multiplayer. Or there was, like, one dude in there holding it down.
Just sitting around waiting for someone to hop on.
Oh, man.
Haste says, is this a response directly to someone else? I'll start reading it anyways. Fuck it, we're doing it live. Hey, Wangless, you're not the only one in this yonder parts with an Xbox One. When my disc laser finally dies, though, you might be. Also, there are actually some union workers in the gaming industry, mainly voice actors, and since many of those are unionized, some video game companies avoid them because they'd rather not pay as much for them. 'Tis a sad choice sometimes, in my opinion. Regarding video game hallucinations in your heads, I can't remember what the conversation was.
We were talking about the Tetris effect.
Oh, right.
Well, somebody asked a question that was like, "Hey, have you ever played a game and saw hallucinations?"
Right.
But that is the Tetris effect.
Gotcha. Which is coming out soon.
Which is coming out next month.
Regarding video game hallucinations in your heads, I would, while lying down in my bed, actually envision myself driving on a certain course in the initial D arcade games. Damn. Back when I played them basically every week. Of course, there was Eurobeat. Interesting. I never played Initial D, but I know what you're talking about. That's crazy.
I remember that was like one of the first like animes I watched that wasn't just like Dragon Ball Z or whatever. Yeah. And I thought it was so fucking cool.
Dude. Initial D is cool. Yeah. It is fucking cool.
And our final bit of feedback comes from Uranium Bullet. Says, seeing as crunch is getting to overwhelming levels due to the insane scale of these games now and into the future, I can't help but wonder what sort of methods devs can begin implementing to take some of the load off and make their jobs easier without sacrificing the quality of the end product. Game engines that are super dev friendly is a great start. Is an Unreal Engine is an Unreal Engine 4 good at this? At the end of the day, one can at least hope their work environments are comfortable and positive enough to be in to make those 100-hour weeks a little more tolerable. Well, first, I don't know if it's a matter of making 100-hour weeks more tolerable. I think it's a matter of making 100-hour weeks not necessary. Yeah. even if you're passionate about making games, nobody wants to spend 100 hours of their week doing a single thing. I mean, we talked about it a little while ago. I think it's just a matter of, like, for some reason, this industry has just kind of, like, snowballed into this effect of, like, bigger is better. And it's always a matter of, like, this is the biggest game world you've ever seen. And it's always about topping the last one. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, just imagine how much more succinct and how much more satisfying something, I'll just keep saying Assassin's Creed Odyssey because I'm playing that right now. Just if that was like a tight, like 30 to 40 hour experience, the world was like cut in half, like, but you got the same amount of development time working on it. You would spend less money making it. You wouldn't have.
You can't ever go back, Nick. Always has to be bigger.
I think we as an industry need to turn that shit around. I don't need a world to be so big I'll never see all of it. I would rather it be just the right size that, like, I can spend 40 or so hours in it and see everything.
Like the Yakuza games.
And, like, it'd be better for everybody, too, because everybody right now complains about the fact that, like, you can't keep up. It's impossible to keep up. There's every week, it seems, or every couple weeks, there's a game coming out that is
oh my
is
God.
just as big as the fucking last one.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to be able to say that I finished Valkyria Chronicles 4 before I jumped into Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but if I did that, I wouldn't be able to play Red Dead. And it's kind of like, how do you prioritize that? It's terrible. I think it's just kind of like I feel people would be more willing to spend their money buying more games if they knew they could finish them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think that is one of the root causes of this fucking problem. Maybe maybe that's a bit of
not buy.
I mean, but maybe more willing to play them. I don't know.
You gotta understand.
We actually
money to buy new games.
Even we who try to play as many things as we can so we can talk about it, like, have to prioritize and have to make tough decisions about what we're playing.
This is a fucking grown-ups problem, though, that we're talking about.
Sure, I guess. But,
it's people who have more income to buy games but less time to play them. When you're younger, it's usually the opposite. So it's like, well, I can buy one game, and then I'm not going to have the money to buy another game for another few months.
Yeah.
So I want to, like, make sure that I can get a lot out of it, and
Yeah.
But it'd be nice that if some of them were short and some of them were long, and then the people who wanted long games could buy the long ones, and the people who wanted to play the ones that were shorter could play the shorter ones. Yeah.
It's awful. Well, like I said, we'll talk about it a little bit more during the second segment, I suppose. But now let's jump into we had a bunch of games.
Where should we start?
Maybe we should just kind of not. You want to do the VR block, like you said?
Can I? Okay, so
start your VR block. We'll roll into the VR games you played for the Spooktacular.
Okay. So yeah, since my week is weird, and since I do most of my streaming and game playing the day after the podcast, I'm going to talk about the shit I played last Friday, which was actually very fucking great. I kind of love VR, and it's because of these games that I've been playing. Like, I talked about Astrobot last week. I played a lot more of that, and it's just fucking incredible. I think the sense of scale is, obviously unmatched. In when you're in VR, and it's like, I fought a boss that just seemed like the biggest thing I had ever seen in a video game, and that seemed really great. But so I played a lot more Astrobot. That was wonderful. But I played a few games that I had never played before. I had played a few levels of this game called, which I believe Nolan maybe talked about when I was on hiatus or something. I Expect You to Die. That game is super fucking fun. It's like a spy comedy game, or almost like, because it's funny, but you're basically put in these scenes almost like like a job simulator situation, but you have an objective, and that objective is to
escape.
It is to, like, solve your little spy thing without dying.
Rebecca says it's like Bond VR.
Yeah, it's like,
tell me more.
It's so like the first level, for example, you're in a car, and all of a sudden, you're in a car in a plane, you're trying to, blow out the door and fly your, car off the plane,
Yeah.
And but then a bomb, like, falls into your lap, and you have to figure out how to, disarm this bomb or do something with this bomb. And it's like, you have all these, like, gadgets and, like, components, like,
what I will say about
the compartments, and you're, like, opening stuff and pressing buttons, and it all does different things, and
that sounds cool.
It's so fucking cool and funny,
But you know what my problem is? I feel the same way about something like Super Hot. Like I feel like there's a lot of like little experiences in VR. Like Super Hot VR is definitely a standout. Sounds like I Expect You to Die might be another one. But like there's all these really cool gameplay ideas, but they're also like they're in the context of these like bite-sized like disjointed.
But this isn't that. This feels like a full game. I mean, it's not 30 hours long. It's probably not even 10 hours long, but it definitely like is a complete cohesive experience that is probably worth the price of admission. It's not a $60 game,
but it
absolutely feels like what you want. I don't think a VR game should be 40 hours long.
No, absolutely not.
And this is most importantly this experience felt really unique, and it was just great in VR. It was one of those things that being in that world and using the two Move controllers is something you can't do with a regular video game, and it's great. And there's a lot of like physical humor in there and stuff, and it's you gotta play it if you have access to VR. I Expect You to Die is really.
I think I'm just gonna
really fucking good. It's really fucking good. Nolan talked about it.
Yeah, he talked about it
a long time ago, but yeah,
he talked about it at one point.
Okay.
So like just so we're clear here, you have access to a VR in your home,
more or less.
Fuck, Nolan has one.
Did you get your hands on Astrobot?
I did. I haven't had a chance to play any yet.
Oh, okay. Damn you.
But I did buy it.
Play it. Trust me. Well, you got to be in there.
It's not mine, but
I also played some.
We as a site have a copy, so.
Yeah, and I'm on the last world, so I'll be done with it soon. I also played some of that game Static, which is sort of that puzzle box game where you have that puzzle box kind of trapped on your hands, and you're trying to not just figure out how to solve the puzzle, but even how all the components of the puzzle work is like kind of half the point of the game.
Is like what. How does each module on the box work?
Yeah.
And like how do they interact? And
it's fucking good.
It's fucking mind bending.
Is that the game that you played at PAX South?
Yes, it wasn't called Static when we played it at PAX South. It was called the something like memory. Memory.
It's the same devs as Little Nightmares.
That's right. I remember talking to them at PAX South and being like, "Wait, you guys made Little Nightmares? That game was dope."
Yeah, this game it's really cool. Although it can be a little obtuse, but I think that's kind of its draw.
Yeah.
It's sort of figuring out how everything works.
And like the puzzle boxes work in stages, so like you'll figure out how like you'll have all these different modules on like the top and the side, and then you finally figure out how they like interact, and then you'll figure something out, and then the box will like transform into something else, and then it has like a whole new set of like things that you're doing, and they get kind of surprising because like you remember that one puzzle that we played at PAX. It's like you're doing all these things on the box, and then all of a sudden like a projector pops out of the box, and it's like projecting shapes, and you're having to like match them to like shit in the environment and stuff.
That's right.
It was really weird.
It's really satisfying. Also, I popped in Moss for a little bit.
Yeah, Moss.
And that's a really cool game. I didn't play too much of it, but it seems cool.
That game deserves, and it sucks because the only complaint I would lodge against Moss is that when it ends, it's just like you feel like you've played the first chapter of a bigger game.
So maybe that's the case, but with something like I don't think that's the case with something like Astrobot at all. Yeah. Astrobot feels like this full like platformer.
Well, Moss seems like they're setting up to be some kind of like episodic type thing. We haven't heard anything about. Yeah. A sequel or a chapter 2 or whatever, but it's definitely because it's basically a storybook. Like it's perfectly set up to be like a chapter 1. Here's what happens, and then it ends on a cliffhanger, and it's like okay, chapter 2 is a different purchase or whatever, a different game. But like, there's been no talk about it.
I didn't realize that.
It's driving me crazy.
But yeah, it was very beautiful. Just kind of like looking around.
That game, like the way the Astrobot like kind of transformed the way you look at VR and the way you think about platformers. Moss very much kind of did that for me. So.
I'm telling you though, Astrobot, you gotta fucking.
I can't wait to play it.
I did a level on Friday where like I went down into the ocean and I was swallowed by like this big whale or eel or something giant, and then I was inside it, and the level was inside it, and then there was like waves coming towards me, like oh my god, it was just fucking incredible. In VR, y'all got to try this game. It's good. And it is that one where you play a level, you're like, oh, wow, this is really fucking cool. And you're like, huh, this is a neat idea. But then they keep, like, surprising you with new shit and with new ways. And it's like, wow, this really does feel kind of like a good Mario game, right?
Yeah.
Where it's just full of all these cool ideas, and it doesn't constantly repeat them, and it's just kind of a wonderful experience. But my VR experiences didn't end with the stuff I played on Friday, because on Saturday we had our horror Spooktacular, and we played a lot of VR stuff.
We did end up playing a lot of VR stuff. I think just a real quick couple shout outs, just things that we're not going to go into greater detail about. We did play Blind, which I have any footage for. It's not something I want to go super. I still don't feel like I have a lot I could say about it, because
we barely played
we were kind of just like jumping between games, obviously depending on what people wanted to see and what we were interested in playing. So Blind was very much like that turns out that wasn't even really a horror game. It was suggested to us by people in the community, and I guess it's kind of tense, but like not really a horror game. But it's kind of a cool concept, because you're blind and you see the entire world as like darkness and everything's like faded out, but you can't see detail until you like tap your walking stick on the ground, and then it like does the the wave of light that kind of travels through the world, which I think is a really cool idea. It just kind of sucks that it turned out to not be much of a.
It's a cool effect that, like, honestly, a handful of indies have messed around with.
Yeah, there was one. There was the one year we went to E3. We went to the indie thing that was on the roof.
Yeah.
Where
the
Bob.
mixer?
Yeah, the mixer, where Bob was showing off Refactor. But there was like one guy had like a booth. You had to like literally step into like a booth that was like you had to pull the curtain around, and you had to make it like pitch black. But that was actually a horror game. There were like monsters in the environment, and you had to try not to make too much noise.
Yeah.
But you could only see via like echolocations, by like hitting things and making noise.
That was pretty good.
Which was pretty cool. But I honestly don't even know what became of that game. I'm sure it's probably out, and we've just missed it somehow. But hey, what are there any other small ones that we played before we get to the bigger things? I think we can jump straight.
Do you want to talk about Persistence?
Yeah, I want to talk about Persistence, because of all the games we played on Saturday, like I feel like Persistence was kind of the biggest shock. I will say shout out to Chai Tai. He sent that to us on kind of a whim. Thought we would enjoy it. I had actually played a demo for it, because it's one of the games that's featured on the PSVR demo that you can buy from the store, or if you bought the VR headset, it should come with it at this point. Super cool idea. It's kind of like a sci-fi action adventure game set in VR, but it's a roguelike. And that's the one thing
the roguelike is probably the worst aspect of that, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the one thing I'm trying to, because the environments, because it's a roguelike, the environments are all kind of samey. I'm hesitant to say that, like, or I'd be willing to say that I bet that game probably stays pretty samey throughout as far as like environments go. I would be shocked if there are like some dramatic changes in scenery.
You're probably right
in that game. But it is cool, because the twist on it is you're sneaking around the ship. Every time you die, you go back to the start and you have to find your way through, but the environment changes. But you're sneaking up on zombies and like using this device to like
suck the stem cells out of their spines.
Yeah,
it's like
stem cells.
But it's basically like kind of first-person Dead Spacey. You're getting abilities, or like new weapons and grenades and stuff.
And let me just say, holy shit, this better get highlighted and put on YouTube, because the first time we tried out the gravity gun,
thing,
because it works unlike anything I've ever seen before. Because the game just describes it as like pick up your enemies and control them, for a limited period of time. But I picked them up, and I didn't realize that the control of the gun at that point is like connected to the actual headset. You're not using the controllers or anything. So like the head tracking. So like I grabbed this dude that's running at me, and then I just start nodding my head up and down and slamming him up and down into the wall and the floor, the floor.
Oh
my god, so fucking amazing. Yes, Gamerbeck just posted the clip in chat. So fun. Like, and it's in the hour and a half that we played it. There seems to be some really cool ideas as far as like guns and.
Well, I think one of the coolest aspects was the second screen experience.
Yes, and that's the big thing. And I've never really played a game with a companion app, or like gotten super into the companion app experience, but like that was really fucking cool.
It seemed well done.
One person was using the headset, and then one of us would have the iPad, and we could see the map in real time. We could mark things on the map for him. We could
freeze enemies.
We could see enemies and mark the enemies for him, or lure, or if we wanted to be a dick, we could lure the enemies towards the person playing in the headset, which is a really cool idea.
Set off booby traps.
Set off booby traps, yeah.
And if you were being antagonistic, isn't there a way to like overload the app or whatever to?
There's like panels in the environment where you can like hack the app so that the app player can't fuck with you.
Like it was cool. Like the fact that it was kind of going both ways. And
cool ideas, but weird, as because it's a roguelike. It's like if this was a fully, featured game. Like,
it's one of those weird games.
A lot more people be talking about it.
It's one of those weird games that was like kind of designed or developed in on its own and like not marketed super highly, and then it just kind of like came out on VR.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you kind of go into
the fate of a lot of VR games.
Yeah, you kind of go into it just thinking like, okay, what is this? Is this just like a tech demo? It's not going to be much of anything, but like it had some cool atmosphere. It had some really cool fucking ideas to it, and it's one of those. It's one of the few games that we played on Saturday that I would like to find some time to actually play through, or at least play a significant portion of. In the near, not too distant future. I think that would be fun for the feed, but I also think to stream it, you kind of need someone there to have an iPad or something.
Yeah.
I feel like with the second screen experience, it might be kind of
too hard,
formulaic, or maybe too hard. Yeah. But yeah, that's the Persistence. It's PSVR exclusive, so check that out if you have access to a VR. Where do you want to go from here? We have some footage for some stuff.
We played a handful of haunted house games.
Yeah, like literally we played 3 games pretty much back to back that were all first person exploring a haunted house.
You have one left. You left one off too. Don't forget Home Sweet Home.
Oh, right. That was
with the click, 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 click.
That was like less of a ghost and more of like a zombie thing.
Yeah, you're being hunted by weird zombies.
So that was completely different.
I guess you're right.
Let's talk about one of these. Let's talk about Visage.
We're talking about Visage. Okay, so
I don't know. Just roll that footage, homie.
All right, let's see if I can do this without fucking this up. All right, pray for me.
Oh
my God! I recorded this.
Wait, is this Visage?
Visage.
Yeah, this is Visage. It's Visage. God damn it, Crispy! It's Visage.
It is not. It is not.
Are you serious?
Sneaking around the house?
This can't be Visage.
Visage. It is one word, and that's how you pronounce it.
It's a Visage.
Oh. You're gonna have to remind me which one this was.
Really?
Well,
Visage is so. Out of the ashes.
Oh man, this is like a total Chris Davis thing, but this didn't start from the beginning of the footage. It might have some. This did start from the beginning of the footage. I think it has something to do with your.
It's fine.
Tweet deck. Or
it's
stream deck.
Fine. It's the footage is running good. That's all I care about.
Sure.
So Green Goddamn's explanation of the way how you pronounce Visage doesn't help at all. Anyways,
Visage.
I am right. SMG Sterling says I am right. It's Visage.
Of course it is.
Okay. You bastards are
Visage is not a fucking
word. Talk about this. I'm going to research this.
Out of the ashes of PT, right?
Okay.
Silent Hills was canceled.
Okay.
There has been several games that cropped up on Kickstarter and whatnot that were trying to basically make a new game in the same vein as PT. The more prominent one before this was Allison Road, which was canceled, and now this, which is still in development. But you can Wait, what?
I don't think I muted the footage.
Oh no, Brad, get up and mute it.
Yeah, I think I could do
that.
Get
up and mute it. Oh my God, what have you done? See, this is what happens when we record a show without Chris Davis. This is why we pay Chris Davis the big bucks. Oh God.
I mean, there's not a lot of sound.
I know it's a relatively quiet thing. Do you know how to mute it?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Visage.
Carry on.
Wait, what?
Wait, what is that?
Visage.
Okay, that's.
Visage.
Okay, that's not correct.
Visage.
Stop playing that.
It's just the video.
Oh my God. It's muted? Okay.
Yes.
Get back over
Remind
here.
me to do that for Obra Dinn.
I do.
Obra Dinn has music, but not. Well.
It's a French loan word, which means it's a French word, which means it's visage.
Anyways, we're not going to talk at length about how you pronounce the word. We're going to talk about the fucking game. So this is a spiritual successor to PT. Part of me is very sad because while I'm playing this, it's constantly reminding me of like, you're basically getting what was strongly suggested or hinted at in PT, but without the Silent Hill association. And honestly, I'm pretty sure that whatever Silent Hills would have been born into would have been probably
would it have been something like this?
It would have been. I think it would have been dramatically different. So
I think you would have been like fighting monsters.
Well, yeah, but yeah, you're probably right, but it wouldn't have taken place inside the context of this one house or whatever. This whole game takes place inside this one house, and it opens with a pretty fucking horrible, like fucked up scene showing a murder suicide, I guess. And over the course of the game, as I understand it, you're going to be reliving or learning about various families that have like died in this house over the years because this house is like cursed or whatever. So they've all horrible things have befallen them. You're exploring this house and kind of
like Edith Finch.
Yeah, this might be the most fucked up version of Edith Finch you'll ever play. What?
No.
Crispy, think words.
No, I don't want to start this fight.
Oh no.
We played a lot of games about haunted houses, but we
Yes.
didn't play any game that had any interesting perspective on the idea of haunted houses, except for Anatomy.
Well, we didn't get very far
That's the
in
way
any of these games.
Well,
While we were able to finish Anatomy. Also, I don't think these games are trying to do
No.
what Anatomy was
No,
trying
I
to
know.
do.
all this game is really
I
trying
know.
This game is about pure atmosphere and like dread. That's really all this is about. You're
It's a haunted
That's
house
exactly
and
what
Okay.
Anatomy is about.
you're right, but they take two very different approaches. We can talk about Anatomy in a second. I will say this, like, as someone who was like devastated by the cancellation of PT, like this has quickly kind of shot to the top of like my most anticipated horror games. It's coming out.
This one?
Yeah, it's looking like this. Unlike Allison Road, this looks like it's probably going to finish development and have an actual release in early 2019.
And it seems
they're
pretty
saying.
scary, too.
Yeah, and it kind of it uses the same techniques as PT, and that you go into this house. There's no music. All you can kind of hear are like the sounds of the house, your own footsteps, and you're just kind of walking around, opening doors, finding keys. And it wasn't like we played this for like almost an hour, maybe more.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like kind of the very end that we actually like found like a ghost of any kind. You have plenty of like creepy, like suggestive things that happen. Like you go into the child's room and bedroom upstairs, and you like knock on the wall, and like you hear a knock right back, and like there's a bunch of shit like that that's creepy.
That's
but like
spooky.
yeah, but like it's paced really well because it wasn't until the very end of the demo that like I turned a corner, and at the very end of the hall, like you could see that it's like really dark. I actually get to it in this footage, but I don't know if we're gonna get to it. But it's a really dark doorway at the end of the hall, and you just see this figure like slowly walking out. And instead of attacking you, like she just drops something on the floor and then walks back into the shadows, and she's gone.
It's like even worse.
And that shit is really fucking effective and really creepy.
This is the one where you pick
It's
up
not creepy. It's horrifying. It's
Yes, it is.
scary.
It's straight up scary.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the one where you end up getting that SLR camera
Yes,
with the
yes.
flash.
Oh,
Which I also
yeah.
do
It's
in
like
this footage too.
like,
Which is
oh,
you pick up the SLR
no.
camera and you're walking through, and it's so dark. All you can do is continually taking photos, and the flash temporarily illuminates the room. But they do some cool things there because when the walls are blank, and then you flash you take the picture, and the flash like illuminates these like creepy drawings on the wall, but they disappear after a second. And like that shit is so effective and you know what's even more fucked up? This game is coming out in VR.
Yeah.
this is gonna be fucking
This is getting a
horrifying.
PlayStation
No
release
fucking
on the
way.
VR, and you know what? I'm gonna fucking play it.
But
Dude,
this
I
is not like Resident Evil 7, okay?
I know,
This is actually, like, this could...
You're gonna poop your pants.
I know on the feed.
You're gonna poop and pee your pants.
On the feed. I'm
See,
gonna,
the thing is,
and
an
then
environment
Robin
like
will
this
never
is
see you
too
the
real,
same
you know?
way again.
An environment like this is too real.
But you know what? That's another thing. I think this game is really effective because they are going for the photorealistic look that they did with PT. Like I was really shocked when you look out the door, in the front door, and you see like the rain and stuff. Like, it's like that looks really
Don't look
fucking
out the
good.
front door. Like,
I will say this. As a criticism, I'll lodge against this. I have no idea how the inventory system works and how picking
Not
and
just
dropping
that-
things works.
yeah.
It is not really well explained.
you know what I hate?
Yeah.
I hate like mechanics and resources in games like this. Just let it be like a spooky game where you're doing some exploration, you're trying to figure out a story, maybe you're there to let it scare you, but I don't want to be managing batteries and candles.
I like
that
that
just
really, like-
stresses me out on top of the already scary shit.
You're not really adding depth to the experience by making us think like, what does this guy have in his pockets?
Yeah, like pick up stuff. Like I like being like looking for stuff that helps you get like explore in advance, but at the same time I don't want to have to go into a menu to select that stuff. Just once it's in my inventory, just acknowledge that it's in my inventory. When I try and open a door, unlock the fucking door. Like in this game, I had to like open my inventory and pick the key I wanted to use every time I came to a door that needed that key, which is like 4 or 5 times over the course of this footage. And I will kind of close. I had a horrifying experience because of this inventory system at the very end of this. We're not going to get to it on rolling the footage right now, but towards the end of this, do you remember when we went to the basement and we were walking through the part of the hall that was like under construction?
You were just dropping shit on the ground?
I accidentally dropped both my lighter and my camera on the floor, and there's a sanity system in this game.
Yeah.
So when you stand in the dark too long, you start to lose your sanity, and you start to hear things. And I didn't hear it very well when we were doing the stream, but I had the volume turned up more today when I was capturing this footage, and oh my god. Do you remember in PT you hear the creepy lady that was like, ugh.
Yeah.
You hear that shit, and it's coming from all different directions, and it's fucking terrifying. But like I dropped both these things on the ground, and it was so dark I couldn't see them, so I couldn't pick them back up, and like I just kept getting progressively like losing my sanity more and more and more. So I had to like desperately try and find a light switch to turn the light on. And like that was a cool moment, but it was born out of this just like pure fumbling around with the inventory system, which I hope they kind of fix.
How's the inventory system in Anatomy?
There is none.
There is none.
You hold like the only things you can pick up. You like hold in front of you.
I will say, Krispy, like not only are they very different games, they're like for different people. Games like this are made for Mark Pillier. Fucking Anatomy is not. Okay.
No, I know. But
what did you do, Nick? Just
one
roll the
is
next
better
haunted
than
house
the other.
footage.
I don't have Anatomy. We're talking about Anatomy.
We got to keep rolling. We got to keep.
I mean, Anatomy was cool. I played that in its entirety on the feed.
Just give us your thoughts. Quick thoughts.
Really like the approach. I really like the concept of like how they explain how a house is like a body. I think that's a really cool concept. It got under my skin. It creeped me out. But nothing.
That game is all creep. No, like actual.
Yeah, there's like
I've never played this, so
it's unsettling. But so
I already know
the game. The game, like no, I mean.
Are you planning on playing this, Brad?
When Nick says that this game is like really atmospheric and things like that, like I think that applies more to Anatomy. It's like
it's pure atmosphere.
It's pretty like it's like that feeling of like running up the stairs from a dark basement before like death gets you. You know, it's like that stretched out into like the whole game.
Yeah, which is only like an hour or so long. Yeah. It's a pretty.
But it's great. It's great. You should wait for a dark. Like very still night.
I will say this: I shouldn't
play
have
that game
on
alone with all the lights off.
Yes,
it's like the Blair Witch Project.
I will say this: you're right. Sure. I should not have played this on the feed with people surrounding me with the lights on. Kind of, I would have loved to turn the clock back and play this game again, like you said.
Some people are mad there's no creepy witch at the end. You know.
I mean, like. Not a whole lot happens, but like it builds suspense.
It takes some turns.
It gets under your skin pretty well, and like the whole analogy that it's pushing the entire, or the metaphor it's pushing the entire time is really cool.
I know that stuff is like, what?
Yeah, and that's Anatomy. It's literally $2.99. You don't. It's not on Steam. You have to go to the website and buy it. Yeah, but it's pretty fucking cool. I enjoy.
You know what else is pretty cool? More haunted house games. What we got, Nick?
Oh, wait, I hit the wrong one. Oh, God.
Just roll that footage.
Just keep it going. It doesn't matter which one you pick. They all look the same.
The Conjuring House.
So let me just say, I forgot how we...
Is that what this is?
Yeah, I forgot how we optimized it when we played it, so this is kind of framey, and then after I finished recording the footage, I turned off there was a 60 frame per second limit on it, but when you set it to unlimited, for some reason it runs way smoother, which I'm sure... y'all could probably figure out, but like I didn't do this, so this footage is kind of framey. I apologize.
All right.
But this is another game that got recently released. This is actually a full game, so this is very it's kind of
spooky.
It's spooky, but it's also like it's much more transparent in the way that it's trying to be spooky than something I think Visage is transparent to a sense, but it's actually really effective. I feel like this tries maybe a little too hard. So far, like we said, I've only played like about an hour and a half of this on the feed. It was fun. I like the look of the game. It's very dark. It's very.
This is the one that I wasn't here for, but y'all were saying shit was like popping out every 2 minutes.
Not every 2 minutes, but like it's much more overt. Like you'll turn a corner. You'll turn a corner and there's there's just these ghostly figures walking. It's much more like Fatal Frame, but like kind of always throwing more shit at you. Like Fatal Frame's pace where like you may not see a ghost for a long while.
This one's also like much more obsessed with like puzzles, like a lot of like really small, granular, like you've always got to be like looking for a key or looking for a symbol on the wall and like getting turned around in the mansion.
So we spent like 30 minutes or more in this puzzle where you have to literally find the code to get in this door, like a combination lock, and you have to traverse this like really, like we're only in the first part of this house, and like it's already very like labyrinthine. Like I couldn't remember how to get around this place. Like even after like 30 minutes, I still hadn't figured it out.
Why
entirely.
is there no map? Is it all like non-Euclidean or something?
No, it's not. It's not non-Euclidean, and it's not randomly generated. It's the exact same map every time. But for some
unless
reason,
it is.
But like no, because I was playing this footage, and I had played it enough that when I went to record the footage, I was like, yes, this is the same map that I played last time, and it plays out the same every time. But
no,
like,
but not saying like. Not saying that's procedurally generated, but that like
maybe it doesn't
the
make
space
sense.
of the house doesn't really make sense if you try to track yourself through it.
There is a point where if you try to leave the house, like you try to turn around and go out the front door, like he opens the door and there's a brick wall.
Yeah,
so there might be some fucked up shit happening
Euclid
later.
Didn't say shit about brick walls.
I would have liked to get farther and to see how far they push it, because especially if it's a game taking place entirely in a house, you would imagine the house has to be pretty large, or they have to start doing some like mind bending like crazy shit, which I get the feeling they're going to do that. Later on. This is another game that I would like to play through to completion. I just think out of the games we played that we're going for the haunted house vibe, this one might be the
least restrained.
Yeah, the least restrained. Yeah.
Well, wait till we get to the next game.
Another spooky house.
I guess there's not a whole lot more to say about this. I will say I will try to play this more on the feed. Maybe once I get through my Resident Evil series run, because this is cool. It's a genuinely like cool. Like beautiful looking haunted house game, and I don't know. There's not a whole lot more I can say about it until I play more of it. But it definitely seems like there's more of an emphasis on abstract puzzles. So if you're not a fan of like the Silent Hill weird like puzzle shit, then you might not be into it. You don't like haunted house games?
I don't.
Oh wait,
because I live in a house and
thing.
I don't like ghosts.
There's no way your house is haunted.
So like one thing I will say.
Yeah, but the creepiest ghost stories. People are haunted, not house.
Two things I will say that features of this game that I think are pretty cool. You can be haunted, like chased by ghosts randomly. Like there's this one ghost that you keep seeing multiple times, and you can just turn a corner and she might be there, and you have to run. And there are save rooms, but if you go in the save room and don't close the door, she can still attack you. So it's not a safe space until you actually close the door.
Your game was fucking good. Evil Within 2.
Yes, Evil Within 2 was so fucking good. I know.
Probably never seen it.
But you know what?
That's like a haunted Matrix game.
This is still a really great time for horror games. I think there's a lot of cool stuff, especially in the indie space, a lot of cool stuff coming out. I think this is definitely one of them. I definitely want to keep playing to see where this goes. I feel like there was two things I was going to say about this, and I've already forgotten what the second one was. No, you're chased by random ghosts, and the save room thing is kind of interesting. But like other than that, it's pretty standard fare. Also, the voice acting is questionable.
It is.
Well, tell me about Nick. Tell me about Paranormal Activity.
Oh shit!
What are you doing?
I forgot we have footage for that. Hold on.
Yeah, we do.
Let me find the right button. Oh god. Oh my god.
It's just.
We got it. Okay.
Whoa.
This is the right.
Are you sure this is new footage?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, Brad, you played this.
Oh man,
how'd that go?
It's scary. I can't do this type of Marc Pilier fodder horror game in VR. I can't do that. I can barely do it out of VR, but in VR, it's like the shit's right in your face. So when you're going around a corner opening a door, like the games are designed to like pop out and scare you. I can't handle that. Also, this game controls like shit.
Yes. That is the one thing that I think might prevent me from... I would be totally into this and wanting to go back and play it just because I like fucked up shit like this, even though it scares the hell out of me. Like, I didn't record footage of Visage until Robin got home because she was out of town, because I didn't want to sit in my home by myself capturing footage of Visage. Not going to happen. Like, this shit is terrifying. The first Paranormal Activity, even the second Paranormal Activity, scare the fucking hell out of me. They're one of the scariest movies I've ever seen in my life, personally, in my opinion. The thought of playing this in VR horrifies me. but I was constantly distracted by how bad the
Well,
fucking controls are in this game.
I think the controls. So this is a game where you're like first person moving your character around. I don't think you should ever do that with Move controllers.
Yeah,
I think if you used a regular controller, it wouldn't be that.
yeah,
you wouldn't have those problems.
The entire time
But,
we played it, we were using Move
you know,
controllers.
I love like being able to control your hands in these games, but yeah, I don't think
It might
that's
not be worth
the
it.
best way to play.
It might not be worth it in this case. I would love to try playing this again with the controller because if it controls better with the controller, I would
It does,
absolutely
but
play
you
this
can't
game.
do all the cool grabby stuff, especially in VR. Like being able to shine your flashlight around one to one.
I mean, you can still do that. You just
Is
kind of
there-
point it with two hands.
But it didn't do that with the controller when we tried it. I don't
Well,
think.
I'm going to give this another spin sometime, maybe when I decide to do a horror night or something in VR.
Ooh, creepy house.
It is. It's another creepy house, and it's definitely. This feels very reminiscent of if you're familiar with the Paranormal Activity movies. It's akin to that.
Are those movies about haunted houses?
They're about demons haunting people.
Okay.
Which is terrible and cults.
Well, that's
and stuff.
completely
Listen,
different.
dude,
Yeah, it eventually
just
unravels
watch the
into a
first
cult.
one.
Yeah, the second one's pretty good too.
The second one is scary. A few of them have their moments. They're still bad. I think only that first one is actually maybe good. The others get real bad.
It's like they'll never be able to make another Blair Witch movie that's like justifies its existence.
Oh my god!
You know what I mean?
They get so stupid.
But this is
like,
cool.
which is the one where it put the camera on an oscillating fan?
The third one
That was a terrible movie, but that
was cool.
was brilliant.
Yeah. Oh my god! Oh, you reminded me of that scene, which was so good.
Never, because it just those movies are about just staring at a camera, and you can't. But having that agency taken away from you is just.
I will say this,
or like taken. Yeah.
That is, I think, one thing that I think separates, like, that kind of makes the game less justifiable, because like Paranormal Activity has always been about watching static cameras picking up paranormal activity in a house, right? In this game, you are literally just playing a person walking through a home in first person. So like all the scares are being presented to you in a different format, and it doesn't quite. I mean, it's Paranormal Activity in that they start going into like the cult shit, and pretty early on they start kind of hinting at that, and there's creepy shit genuinely happening, but it's not the same as like sitting down to watch a Paranormal Activity movie. But
yeah,
it's cool that
it's funny that they don't like.
They could do like Paranormal Activity is basically just you do a like a night trap or for younger people the Five Nights at Freddy's style, like the first one.
Yes, exactly.
That's what a Paranormal Activity game should be like.
Yeah, like it's weird that they don't consider that about themselves.
Like what if?
But I mean, this was obviously just licensed,
and they wanted to make it a
get
VR.
money.
What if it was a VR experience where you're literally you're in VR, but you're literally a guy sitting at a desk watching footage? Like you're on a desk and you're like putting the tape into things and like just watching footage.
Oh, that would be cool.
Going into 3D to watch 2D images in a 3D space.
That would be fucking
That's
cool.
so
There's
cool.
a lot of really interesting things you could do with this, and this game does none of them.
But you know what? It got me pretty good a few
pretty
times.
scary.
It is
I
scary,
couldn't
but-
fucking play it. I couldn't do it.
But another thing I'll say about VR,
I think Nick is like way more of a tough guy than he like lets on. Like when something scares him, he jumps, but like he's still.
I think I'm
a
really
tough guy.
I think I'm really just
Tough guy.
overwhelmed by like how much I'm amazed and like enthusiastic about VR technology. Like because if VR tech wasn't so cool and I didn't love the feeling of being in the space, like if it didn't revolutionize the way I think about playing video games, I probably wouldn't have been able to stomach playing all the way through Resident Evil 7. But like
This looks like you're playing with a controller.
He might have been. This was no one captured this.
Yeah, he's playing with the controller.
Yeah.
This looks way better.
It probably is
Because we were doing like the clicks and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my god, it was so bad.
I think you could play this outside of VR. Maybe that's what he's doing.
Maybe. But yeah, I think it's just like because like I was watching you play, and then you passed the controller to me, and I put the headset on, and I was like, oh my god, it's night and day. It is such a different experience, like watching the footage versus putting the headset on and then suddenly being in the space. It is so incredible how they convey the sense of space. It's so cool. I love it. Which is the only reason why I'm
hey
pushing through this.
That's cool. Let's kill this footage and move on. Hey, have you been watching Hill House?
No, I've been waiting
You
for Robin.
son
I've been
of a
waiting for Robin to
bitch.
get back. She wants me
So
to
you
wait.
didn't watch the one where he's trying to like clean out the mold in the
Nope.
basement? Oh, okay.
Nope.
Damn it, dude.
Why would you try to clean mold out of a haunted house?
Because they're trying to flip it.
Why would you try to clean mold?
Why don't they just
Oh,
tear down the
man.
house?
There was a scene in
I would
there.
just burn down any one of these houses. The
Do they
moment
ever
it
talk
happens-
about that?
Yeah.
Are they ever just like, hey, we could just destroy
Yeah,
the
ghosts,
house?
try and scare me now when I burn the house down around us.
And then the house, and then the ghosts are like, no, our real
Yeah.
estate.
There was a so usually
I was kidding, but
usually
why would you clean mold,
usually
by
you
the
see
way?
like blurry like figures in the background.
Yeah.
But this one was just kind of a hard to see, but not blurry at all. Just a woman, just like that you've never seen before. Just up, you see her face. I mean, you see her just kind of like crouched in like.
Come on.
What?
Come on. I don't want to hear this.
Were you gonna watch it? Or you?
Yes, I'm
scared?
going to watch it, and it's not a video game.
No, but that isn't. We're talking about spooky shit.
We're talking about spoops. By the way, I do want to say thank you to everyone who tuned in to watch us on Saturday. It was a fun stream. We had a good time. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. There's a lot of great moments that hopefully will make their way to YouTube in the not too distant future. Just want to say that.
I will say, I think that. Oh, you didn't watch it. Never mind.
I will.
There
This
was
time
there
next
was
week,
like
I will
an
have finished
episode with like a single tracking shot, or at least multiple single tracking shots. Well, I guess everything's multiple single tracking shots, but
multiple single tracking shots.
only a few single tracking shots was the whole episode. That one it was just bad actors. There's some bad acting on that show.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I think the oldest. Well, whatever. Let's move on.
All right. We have 2 non-horror games to talk about. Brad, let's hear what you have to say about Soul Calibur 6.
Okay, roll that footage. You know, I'm only talking about it because Jaeger put it on the damn tweet.
You have to.
Honestly,
He
I
forced
haven't
your
played
hand.
enough of this. In fact, this character I'm playing as, well, as Geralt. I made a bootleg series. I've like barely even used this character, so I don't even know what I'm doing too much in this footage. But so Soul Calibur 6, it's a new Soul Calibur game.
Woo.
Let's talk about it.
Is it good?
The thing is, the modes I want to try most, or the modes that I would like to talk about most are the ones I barely tried because I haven't had a lot of time. I've just been messing around with the character creator, doing some arcade, but I can talk about some of the unique mechanics to this game, I suppose. One of them is a more like controversial thing. Yeah. I mean, you always jump off at the end of a
I didn't know that. See, I'm so inexperienced with Soul
Yeah,
Calibur.
I mean that's just what you
It's
do.
just good manners.
So yeah, Geralt's in the game as a guest character. You have your various signs and stuff. You might see me do a few of them here, but some of his signs use meter, so I don't get to do
Wait.
his special.
You're not playing as Geralt.
Oh, I'm playing a Siri.
Siri.
I made a Siri, but
okay.
using the
But,
Geralt
yeah.
moveset, yeah.
Gotcha.
Which, honestly, I think Geralt's moveset is a little boring. I mean, there's some really crazy, like fighting styles in this series, like really crazy, cool shit. And Geralt seems like really straightforward and boring. That I think I might make Siri like a clone of like Raphael or
Is
something.
he the only guest character?
Or Shenghua? Guest character, yes, like from another series.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, he's the only guest character. That and the new characters. There's only I think 2 of them. There's this guy and there's like some other like wizardy looking dude. And honestly,
Wizard, huh?
I expected more new characters and stuff, but I think this was more of a reactionary roster because people were sad that the last Soul Calibur game didn't have a lot of like classic characters, classic mainstays. It had like their kids, kind of like the
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat game. So they kind of brought back the classics. This actually takes place like in the past, I think, and that's why it's mostly just classic characters. But one of the new mechanics that's somewhat controversial is this rock, paper, scissors mechanic. Like you have a move that'll force the player into this state where they have to choose between like horizontal slash or vertical slash or kick, or they can dodge or whatever. But it's a move that you can't really block. You can like sidestep it, but it forces you into this state and it kind of breaks up the flow of battle, and it becomes a thing of chance, of like guessing game instead of just like pure skill. So some people really don't like it, and I don't really like it.
I can imagine that being a problem in a fighting game.
Yeah. And you kind of just don't want to use it, but it actually does have its uses because it's kind of like almost like a counter or like a get off me move. It's something you do because it has like armor before it comes out. That's one of them. It's happening right now. But because it's like an armor move, it's like a really good get off me move when people are spamming like fast A attacks.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I feel about that. There's also kind of like a V trigger style mode, kind of like from Street Fighter V, where if you build up enough meter, you can like enter a state where you're more powerful. In the case of Geralt, you can like kind of spam his signs without using meter, so you can be like, you know, igni or art and stuff, which is cool. But it's and when Geralt goes into his state, I forget what they call it, like critical edge or something. It looks like he just drank. It looks like he's drinking a bunch of potions, or his various Witcher elixirs. But it looks really kind of stupid, like he's just having like a seizure or something. Like they didn't animate it very well. It's weird. But yeah, so the reason I kind of didn't want to talk about it too much yet is because I didn't really get into the modes that I think make Soul Calibur like somewhat unique, in that it has a lot of, rich single player content. I don't really intend to play this too much online or versus other people, but Soul Calibur traditionally has that really satisfying single player modes, kind of like a NetherRealms game, like Mortal Kombat or whatever. And the two meaty modes that they have in this is, one's a story mode for like all the characters with like these cutscenes between battles with like voice acting and stuff. I mean, not really cutscenes, but lots of conversation and story and stuff. And I'm glad all this stuff's voice acted, and that seems pretty cool. But really, the main mode is Libra of Souls. That's the one where you create a character and it's like an RPG, and you're like leveling them up, and you're going across this world map, and you're doing various combat stages.
World map?
Yeah. You
They've had
don't
those.
walk around the world.
Oh.
Yeah. You travel around the world to various places.
Yeah.
But like the hook is that you have a lot of like stages with like strange conditions, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can only damage them with throws, or like, it's on ice, so it's very slippery or whatever. But my problem with it in this is, and it's really frustrating, because I feel like this was a problem with some of the Tekken single player stuff, or some other game I played recently that's really frustrating to me. It's that both the story mode and the Libra of Souls mode, that create a character mode, when you get into combat, it's just one round and there's no difficulty options.
Yeah.
So you spend a lot of time like just moving from stage to stage, and there's actually like dialogue choices and like decisions you're making. There's like a morality meter and stuff outside of battle. But once you get into battle, it's a single round and it's not super difficult. So it goes by so quick, and almost like it doesn't even matter. And I feel like it defeats the whole. It's missing the point, because it should be like a fun, interesting challenge, but it doesn't even last long enough to matter much. But like when you go into a regular battle, it's best 3 out of 5. And I feel like if they gave you they made you do like a few rounds in this Libra of Souls mode, it would be way more. It'd be paced way better.
Yeah.
And I think that was the problem in some of the Tekken single player content, but it's definitely a problem here, and it's kind of bumming me out, to be honest. But I got to play a lot more about it. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about it next week to kind of break up the Red Dead conversation.
Mechanically speaking, though, it's
it definitely
solid.
feels good. I'm not great at like Soul Calibur. I never played too much of it. In fact, the last time I played a bunch of it was probably Soul Calibur 2. I played a little Soul Calibur 4, but I like Nightmare or Siegfried or whatever. But I couldn't give Ciri a giant fucking sword, like a giant berserk-sized blade.
Thought you were going somewhere else.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing, is people figured out how to make cocks.
So, like, the character creator seems pretty robust as far as, like...
Yeah, well...
Our Discord has been full of nothing but
I
characters
don't know about
created in this
robust. I mean,
game.
like, I was able to piece this outfit together, which I think is a pretty
looks
good
pretty
Ciri outfit, off of like using colors and layers and stuff of other pieces of outfit. But then they just have a tab that's just like objects. Like you can add cylinders and spheres to your character in different ways.
Geometric shapes.
And people have just made these geometric shapes huge and made like giant erect cocks and stuff. And
Did I see one
weird.
that was like a rainbow cube?
Yeah,
There was
just
a character that's just a giant rainbow
that
cube.
almost seemed like a glitch. I don't think you can make that big.
How does that
doesn't
thing
seem
even
right.
fight?
Well, you still have
It's
a
got a lot
moveset
of
underneath.
edge.
Oh, that was her quaffing all her elixirs or whatever. It looked silly.
Quaff.
Yeah. Well,
All right. Well,
he quaffs them, right?
Quack.
so you'll have more to say about this next week.
Oh, more to say about it next week. More to say about these modes and stuff because
You're gonna break up our Red Dead discussion next week.
Yeah,
talk
gotta talk about
Soul
something
Calibur.
else. Yeah.
No, we don't, Brad. We're gonna talk about nothing but Red Dead. Next week's the Red Dead show. I'm just kidding. All right. So what do you say we take a quick break when we come back to do Obra Dinn? Because that might take
Quick though, because we only have an hour.
Yes, that's right. So we're gonna come back. We're gonna talk about Obra Dinn. We're gonna answer some questions from our supporters on Patreon and close out the show with the 4-player minute. So if you're watching us live, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show.
I play games.
Yes, and I want you to tell us about this game that you've been touting right now.
Which one?
The Return of
Okay.
Obra Dinn.
The Return
of the Obra Dinn.
The Return of the Obra Dinn.
I'm going to try and do this. Let's see if this works. Don't wait for me. Just keep going. What is the Return of the Obra Dinn?
The Return of the Obra Dinn is a narrative-driven investigation game, I think would probably be the best way to describe it. The premise of the game is that the Obra Dinn, which is a 18th century
Footage. Mute the footage. Sorry.
cargo vessel in the employ of the East India Trading Company has just mysteriously returned to port with none of the crew
On board.
or passengers alive. There are bodies aboard the ship, but there are some bodies
It's
aboard
like
the
the
ship.
boat that made it back in Jurassic Park in the
but nobody-
mainland.
Right. Nobody from the crew is on the ship, and nobody really knows what happened to the ship after it left England on its course around the Horn of Africa, or what happened. What happened to anybody, where it's been, what's been going
Anything
on.
in any mystery involving ships and their crew, I've always found to be very intriguing.
Well,
yes,
Nick,
and
this is the
one,
game for you.
This one is particularly good because you go in knowing absolutely nothing. Your character is an assurance investigator or insurance investigator for the East India Trading Company, and you have been sent by a benefactor to the ship, which is now back in England, to investigate, and you are to compile a report of what happened to every person on the manifest. There's 70 people who were lost.
You have to solve 70 murders or
70
70 deaths?
60.
70 fates, they call them.
60.
Oh.
70 fates. You have to, and this is the report. This is the book that you are. This acts as like kind of your main interface for your investigation.
Yeah.
And it's broken up into 10 chapters. Each chapter's named, and each one kind of covers a different event during the course of this adventure.
Does it all take place on the confines of
It
the
all
boat?
takes place in the ship.
Oh, wow.
It all takes place on the boat. You show up. The game takes place really in like one night. You show up in the boat, you get there, you investigate, and then you leave when you're done. The whole thing is like broken up across 10 chapters. The story itself, like the actual account of what happened to the Obra Dinn, covers a couple months, I believe. But you can only see the story through the moments of death of the people involved. So when you arrive at the ship, when you arrive at the ship, you're given the book that you're going to be filling out that was provided for you by your benefactor. There's a note in there that tells you what he wants you to do, and you're also provided with this pocket watch, which is called the it's like Memento Mortem or something like that. It's some Latin memory death, whatever, and it's got a little skull on it. And the whole thing with that watch is that if you're near a body, you can use it to see the moment of that person's death. And what that translates to in game is you'll get these segments where you use the watch, and then you'll listen to an audio. Like you can hear a couple, like 30, 40 seconds before the person dies, hear what's going on. And then at the very end of that audio clip, it'll cut to a freeze frame of the character in question's moment of death. And then you're like in the physical space of that moment, completely frozen, and you have to move around and basically figure out, it's not just about how did they die, because they're showing you how all these people died, but the problem is you don't know who any of these people are.
Yeah.
You've got an entire manifest. You can see exactly like who's supposed to be on the ship. You've got names and positions and countries of origins, right, for everybody, but you have to put faces to names. So you're watching like this scene that we just saw was somebody getting shot, and then the scene that is starting right now takes place just a couple seconds after that, and it's somebody else getting killed.
Which, by the way, just real quick intermission here, as far as like, I think it's important to mention, like, this game looks really unique.
It does. It has a very unique art style that kind of looks like a kind of like a print style from the day and age that you would have seen.
Black and white. It's like everything's made up of like dots.
It's not even like black and white. It's like you can't quite tell here, but it's actually a very like muted olive green. Yeah, it's very similar to like what you would have seen like in print media or something, or it even kind of like looks like scrimshaw almost. Yeah. Like it's really weird. And so to be honest,
it reminds him of a Game Boy camera. Wait.
Yeah.
It is very much like that. And to be honest, like the art style is, I think, one of the most distinctive, like coolest aspects of this game. It also, for me, was a little challenging at times. It does, like, when you're sitting away from it, it looks very smooth, but when you're like sitting in a computer or looking at it on your monitor, it's really,
I will say, I recommend playing with a controller because it kind of slows down the movement.
It does slow down the camera movement, but even like there are some things like for instance, there were little things where like I couldn't tell that like I was looking at somebody, and it took me a long time to realize that when I was looking at them, they were like missing an arm.
Yeah.
And it was just because like the noise of the image was such that like I couldn't really tell what was going on.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of that, and some people have reported having problems with the art style. There's a couple options for adjusting it, which I think helps. Yeah, it just kind of depends on color and like how small you make the image and like how far away you're sitting from it. But overall, like, dude, this game is fucking incredible.
Would you say like the ultimate, like, it's a mystery? So
it's
like,
a mystery. It's many mysteries.
Does it deliver a satisfying like conclusion, would you say? Or?
Okay, well, I don't know, because I haven't
without
I really like. This is so like Carlos recorded this footage, and he just recorded what is in the trailer, which consists of like maybe the first 10 minutes of gameplay, because like this story goes places, and it goes places very quickly.
Yeah,
and like it gets fucking crazy. You are just concerned with what happened to these individuals. There's 70 people. You have the manifest. You also have a couple illustrations. One of the people on the ship was an artist, so they drew illustrations of like life on the ship.
Yeah.
And you have copies of those, which between those pictures you have an image of everybody on the ship, which you're using as like kind of a guide to compare when you go into these memories. But you're just considering what happened to those people. So there's definitely a story going on. There is a story, like there is an epic story of like what happened on the Obra Dinn, but they never show you the whole thing.
Yeah.
And you only get to see it, again, like I said, in the moments of death of like different characters. So like Carlos and I both finished this game, and we were talking for a long time yesterday, just trying to piece together like, okay, well, why did this character do this if this happened later? Like there's this huge plot of intrigue that's going on that like the game doesn't really go back and just like show you the whole thing. It doesn't like wrap everything up in a way.
Don't say that.
No.
But is it pretty?
No, stop. That's not what I'm saying. I mean, it doesn't wrap anything up in like. In a way that like you still have to interpret some things a little bit.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's like a couple different endings you can get to the game too, but it doesn't like.
Can you talk?
There's obviously something bigger going on that like you don't really ever see the pictures of. You're just kind of more you're kind of like moving into the peripheries of a larger story, but like it's almost like a lot more interesting because of that.
Yeah.
You know, like it is super compelling. Like once you get to like the fourth or fifth like corpse that you find in the game and like see how that person died, it takes like a hard left turn and you're just like, whoa, what the fuck is going on this ship? And you like, it was addictive for me. I fucking went home after the last podcast that we did, and I stayed up all night and I played like 7 hours of this.
Can you talk about some of the ways that, so you say that you are trying to figure out like how people died and who they are, but can you talk about some of the clever ways that you have to use your resources or observations to like figure out who someone is, or
like a contextual example? I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
I will certainly try.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be a specific example, but all I'm saying is you have to pay attention to fucking everything, and you have to like kind of cross-reference different scenes and really pay attention to what people are saying. You have to listen to like accents and stuff, because you know where some of these people are from. And then
you know where everybody's
from. Is that
an
Austrian accent? I think it might be. And
there are like different, there's a bunch of different like groups of people on the ship too. Like you'll see a lot of characters stick together. So like all the top men, like the guys who work up in the rigging, like they're usually all together somewhere doing something. The midshipmen, who are like the junior officers in training, like they're always like doing something together. So you learn to start like recognizing like what the different like cliques and like what the social order on the ship was, and like who was associating with who. And there are a lot of different moments in the game where like they ask you to kind of like make some leaps in like critical thinking, like to like make some judgment calls or make make inferences based on an incomplete set of information. Like I said, you're trying to figure out 70 fates, but you don't actually see all 70 of them.
Yeah.
And in fact, you see some that aren't associated with the crew manifest, which is weird. There's
So like I think one of the problems that you could run into with like a quote unquote detective game where you're trying to like solve mysteries is sort of the way that you record or make your conclusions.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big interface or one of the big parts of this game is how they handle that. And it's sort of
can you draw the wrong conclusion?
You can, but you can't. The thing about it is like you can't just like it's tricky because you can't just like spitball an answer and then like get a confirmation as to whether or not you're right. The way the game works is that fates are confirmed. Like the game will tell you like, hey, you got it right, but they only do that in sets of 3. So you have to have 3 correct somewhere in your book for it to like stop the game and go, hey, good job, and then give you like 3 more and tell you who they are. As you're
and they
like
have to be complete, which means you can't just name the way the person died. It has to be who died. You have to know who that person is, the way they died, and if it was somebody who killed them, like, you have to know who that person was as well. And you have to get 3 sets of those.
You have to have the full picture.
Yeah.
We've been talking about ghost games all night. Don't do that, man. But we gotta hurry because
it's pretty cool. Because like each page in the book will be a specific death. It'll like show you a picture of who died, and then you have to like fill everything else in. And as you're like going through making your guesses, they're all presented as like these little notes you're putting in the book. And then when you get something right, it goes back through and turns it into typeface. Like it actually like officially prints it into the book. So you'll hear people talk about like typeface in this game.
And it's very rewarding when you kind of piece things together using various components across different scenes.
The really cool thing about this game, like one other thing I want to mention, is that, like I said, there's 10 chapters. There's one chapter your benefactor, the guy that you're working for, will not give you until you've finished all the others. And it's in the middle of the book. It's like chapter 8. So there's like a fucking leap in this story where like you maybe figure out everything going into chapter 8, and like you can kind of figure out where everything comes out of chapter 8, but you don't know what the fuck happened in there. And what you get at the end of the game, as for, like chapter 8's the last thing you do in the game, and what you get is kind of determined by how you handle the investigation up till that point.
Interesting.
I
think you sold me on this game. It sounds like super dope. I
didn't say a couple things I want to say.
Oh, go for it. I mean, I'm not moving on. I'm just saying I want to play this.
So kind of navigating this book and all these scenes, like figuring out how all that works can be a little confusing at first. I played this a few hours. I played it with Malia, so I had another person there kind of trying to suss all this out. It definitely takes some time.
Is it a fun game to play? Is it?
Yeah.
With
someone? Yeah. For sure.
It definitely benefits
you
from
bounce
collaboration.
off ideas and stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One thing a couple things I really wish that was in this game, that to make it a little more, the experience a little more user friendly, is I wish I could view a scene, especially listen to the audio of a death from the book without having to navigate back to the actual body on the ship. Like that would make like jumping around and kind of piecing things together go a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if not, they should put in like a fast walk button, because there is one speed that you move, and this is a big ship with multiple floors.
I was going to ask you about
It's like 4 or 5 decks.
Yeah.
Does the ship feel big enough?
It does.
Yeah,
it's an
huge.
interesting space to move through, and like you become intimately familiar with the entire ship as you play.
So it's
like,
big, but not so big that you don't it's
right.
big enough,
It's like
small enough to feel familiar with
what
it.
Brad is saying is correct in that like letting you go back into the memories from the book and or giving you a sprint, either one of those I think would have made like this, the latter half of the game, which like you'll get to in a minute, is so like these memories that you're going through, they don't sustain throughout the entire game. You get like, here, let me give you an example. I played this game for 15 hours. It took me about 15 hours to finish the whole thing. I was getting new memories up until like hour 8 or something, and then the rest of that was like, here's the ship, you know, where everybody is, like just unravel the net, like the rat's nest, you know, just connecting dots. So you spend a lot of time like running around the ship, going back to different bodies, and you're going like, okay, I need to see that scene again, and then you go run off to another deck and watch another scene, and then you come back, and like there's 2 or 3 scenes that like are kind of like the cornerstone scenes of everything. Like a lot of people appear in those scenes, so they end up being ones that you go to over and over again.
I will say the pacing at first is a little exhaustive, because you know, like what you're seeing in the video, it's one thing, right? You see a scene, you see a few deaths, you know, you kind of go from corpse to corpse, right? But then when you get to these bigger scenes, like you're like, okay, who's this? Who's this person? Who's actually like killing them, and how are they actually dying? And while you're still thinking about that, like the game, your compass starts vibrating, and it's trying to like take you from corpse to corpse to corpse, and then it becomes a little overwhelming at first. And like I was talking to Carlos, and he's just saying, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. But like by the time,
that's really
like,
what it is.
It got to a point where like I was on one deck, or you know, the top deck, or in that first,
the gun deck,
the one right underneath, and there were so many people, and I had not solved like a group of 3, right? I had kind of a handful that I thought might be right, but I didn't have enough information, and I was like, I'm not getting this. Let's just go to the next deck. And there was all these new people, and the only way I was able to confirm some of the ones I was unsure about was to like do like a really easy guess of like from like a completely new group of people on like a completely different like floor, and I was like, this is getting kind of overwhelming. I feel like I had not figured out enough stuff from like this last group of people, and I'm already looking at a completely new group of people on another deck.
Yeah.
And I was kind of telling Carlos that I was a little frustrated with the way that was paced, but he was telling me that I should just keep going into a point.
Absolutely. I mean, like,
but the game does not suggest that that's the way you should play it.
No. I mean, the game is very much just like setting up the crime scene and saying figure it out. And isn't really guiding you through the process at all. Like
it does some light tutorialization.
It'll tutorialize some mechanics, but like there are even like for instance, there's things in the game that like there are different tool sets that you have access to that like may or may not be helpful to you. Like for instance, there's an ability in there to like bookmark memories, so you can like select individual people, bookmark somebody, and then like it'll show you all the memories you've seen in which that person appears. I never used it.
I have no idea how it works.
I never.
Sounds like it would be helpful.
Don't even fucking worry about it. You don't need it. It's not a thing. But yeah, like you are at a like it definitely moves through a phase of collecting information and then a phase of like synthesizing new information from what you've collected. So you really need to just like keep going.
Kind of like gave me a few lines of saying like maybe don't linger when you can't figure something out.
It's okay to like it's okay to like try to like sort things out as you're going, because there will be some things that you're like, okay, well obviously I can see how that guy died, so I'm just gonna like fill that in right now while I'm here, so I don't have to worry about doing it later. But like you're not gonna figure it out until you've gotten through all the scenes anyway, so it's better to just like take it all in and then kind of just like move into a more like analytical phase of it. And I kind of like that it's
clicking
just,
into place.
yeah, I kind of like it's just handing you a puzzle box and saying like, open it, and it's not really like holding your hand at all through any of this.
You know what this game
process.
reminds me a lot of? It reminds me of the board game Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, where you're given a lot of like materials and someone died, but you have a lot of freedom to kind of just use those materials and kind of move where you want to. Now, and ultimately you just have to kind of be satisfied with the conclusions you've like, like this person's involved in this way.
Yeah.
Where does that go? I don't know. Let's just keep moving.
The game also
also
straight up tells you that like you're just not going to have perfect information on every person. So like there are going to be like there are going to be trial and error.
I mean, in that sense,
that's another thing.
Like
it's realistic in that sense though, because someone who was trying to unravel this, like you're not going to 100% figure out every little detail of every single person who died. It's just about trying to get the best picture you
can.
can.
And you're also working with a limited vocabulary when you're ultimately like drawing up your conclusions.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't know did I just get this wrong, or
like, what's the difference between speared and spiked? And
exactly. Like did I fuck that up?
Yeah. Yeah. That there were a couple bodies where I had like that, where it was just like I remember I got it down to like I had like 2 more bodies that I could, because the count gets a little weird at the end, and it kind of like, yeah, anyway, like I had like 2 more bodies that I needed to figure out, and like it was just like trying to figure out exactly like I think I can see what's going on, but like how is the game describing it?
It's
like,
that awkward detective thing, right? Where any detective game ultimately is going to have to come up with some way that you could like submit your conclusions.
Yeah.
And I think it does it like a pretty good way here. And honestly, that stuff doesn't even matter as much as like in the grand scheme of things. But it's why I think like the perfect like detective game might be something like Her Story, because you're not actually submitting conclusions. You're just sort of processing the information and following the trails based on the notes that you take. And ultimately, I guess, sort of the theme of that game is that the conclusion that you come to is what you just have to be at peace with.
But there's no part of the mechanics that revolve around being right or like having the full picture.
Yeah, and maybe that's
and I mean like this is definitely a bit more mechanical in nature than that game, but like there is a certain sense that like there's a story here, but you're not concerned with the whole story. You're concerned with very specific aspects of that story.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting, and I kind of like how they leave the game, and man, I don't know, I can't stop thinking.
I'm very eager to play
this.
It's
fucking
cool.
crazy.
Like that seems like might be a thematic thing.
This also seems like it might be a great palate cleanser after Red Dead.
Yeah.
Lot of great revelations of
$20,
like,
I think.
Oh, like you go. Oh,
dude, it's crazy.
In this game.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like dude. I mean, some of those, like I said, like even some of those scenes. That's something else I want to mention about this game. There is a very strong sense of rhythm in the game, and like music. Like music's kind of important.
Really good,
it doesn't really serve a mechanical purpose in the game, but like music is very present in the presentation of the game, and like everything about the game, including like information that they're giving you, like in menus and like pop-ups and tutorials. Like everything is on a beat and like has a rhythm to it, and it's just really cool. And along with that, like these memories, sometimes you'll be listening to something, like because you're doing that little audio lead into like the actual scene itself, and you're listening and you're going like, what the fuck is going on? And then they like snap in like on this big crescendo in music to like the scene itself, and you like see what you're looking like, what you were hearing, and you're like, oh my god, like some of the scenes in this game are just like suck the breath out of your lungs. Like,
That's-
it's incredible.
The presentation is really good.
That's fun.
Yeah.
The presentation is really good.
It is so cool, man. Like, I would highly recommend. Like, this is top 5 for me this year so far. I think.
Wonderful.
Like, this is crazy. Like, I really think everybody who has the opportunity to play this game should. If you like that idea of like investigative games, this is probably one of the best I've ever played.
I'm absolutely gonna find time to play this
It's
year.
so
This
good.
looks dope as
Man,
hell.
I want to kind of talk about.
Which one?
Well, it's a longer conversation.
There will be time. There will be time.
More about Lucas Pope and like the themes of Papers, Please versus, maybe potentially racial profiling in this
Yeah.
game and stuff.
Yeah, it's
that. Could be a good 4-player plus.
because
Let's move
you
on.
kind of have to do that a little bit. It's
Okay.
weird.
Do
Like,
you? Do you?
I mean, like,
Okay. Let's
it's weird. Yeah,
We do need to
yeah.
move on. Like I said, we got about almost 40 minutes until Nolan needs to take over with Red Dead. So let's move right along. There's a little bit of news. We kind of there's 2 news topics I really wanted to bring up this week.
Mhm.
One of which can be covered really quickly. Days Gone has been delayed. Oh, I'm gonna fix that. There we go. Days Gone has been delayed to April. Thank Jesus, right?
When was it coming out?
February. It was coming out on February 22nd.
There's an overlay for this.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, but no.
We haven't been using
We're,
the-
we're struggling here. We don't care though at this point.
We've been using. We got all the footage rolling, and that's all that matters.
Wait,
Do you want your mic back, Nolan?
Is it
It's off.
well, it was on. I just turned
Yeah,
it
no one
Oh.
taught us how to use that thing.
We don't.
We,
I think I've muted you. If you want to get back on.
I will say this: we got the footage working, and we got all that went off pretty smoothly. So just the overlays haven't been working.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to be on the show,
Welcome
Nick.
back to the show. Nolan.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Glad you could join
you
us
were
for the
muted.
second half.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, no, I'm here.
Cool.
I could have taught you how to figure. I figured it out right before the podcast, but then I had to leave.
Yeah, quite all right. So, like I said, not a whole lot to mention there, but Days Gone was February 22nd, which was stacked on top of like 3 or 4 other games, including
I
Metro.
love game delays.
Yes.
It has honestly become one of my favorite things. Like 5 years ago, it was the worst news in the world. Nowadays, I fucking love
Game
it.
delays
It
are great.
still depends on the game.
Game
though.
delays are
If Red
great.
Dead got
'cause-
pushed back,
Yeah, if Red
'Cause
Dead
you know
got pushed
what?
back, you'd be
You know what's
unhappy.
great?
I still have plenty to play.
You know what's
What's
great
your
about a
right?
game delay? It's not only that. Not only is it like moving great games away from one another and giving them time to breathe and move and stuff, but it's like when a game is delayed and it doesn't come out. If the game doesn't launch, it can't disappoint you.
That's true too.
true.
It still exists in that like perfect state in your mind where it's like, man,
Schrodinger's
Half-Life
game.
3 is gonna be incredible. You know?
Way to bring that up.
It's Schrodinger's game.
Yeah,
It's both
exactly.
amazing and horrible at the same time.
Exactly. It's like it could be anything.
All that really matters with this though right now is that it's been pushed away from like 3 or 4 other big games, and it's coming out in April now. That's all you need to know. The other
Days
thing I wanted
Gone?
to do was I wanted to return to the conversation we had last week. We were kind of hinting at it that there was a big op-ed coming about this whole Rockstar crunch culture thing.
Mm-hmm.
We all knew Jason Schreier was probably going to dig into that and like bust that thing wide open, and it looks like he did.
Busted it wide open.
I read the article. Brad, you read the article as well?
Yes.
How do you feel? So we talked a lot about last week about one. We were going into we were talking about it from the sense of like crunch culture is a thing that we need to deal with. We need to talk about it. It's an important thing. Whether Rockstar is guilty of this or not, we don't know. Now we kind of have a better, clearer picture of that,
Yeah.
and it definitely does seem like there is some crunch issues happening at Rockstar. Did you have any thoughts after reading?
Well,
Did
it confirmed a lot of fears that people were having.
Yeah, how people didn't, how they were saying, that working overtime or working 100-hour weeks was optional, but nobody felt like it was optional.
and people
Um,
working less than 60 hours were like labeled.
Well, like
Yeah.
the idea, the whole thing about like at Rockstar North about how like people were just coming into work just so that like Dan Houser would see them, like
Yeah.
like hey, like take a lap around the floor just so like Dan can see that you're here because like that's all they really fucking care about. Like,
Yeah. And
it's so frustrating.
What was it from this article that I think like the most obnoxious thing came out where they said that if you're not at Rockstar when the game ships, you're
not-
not in the credits.
That is fucking
If you don't
outrageous.
finish
So
the game, they don't put you in the credits.
That's
And,
ridiculous.
and this game is the first one where they've done any sort of thing where like they put a page up on their website that had other people that didn't make the credits, and this is the first time they've ever done that.
But when
even.
did that go
Like,
up?
But like, why does that
I mean,
like if they're gonna go that far,
recently,
why
yeah.
not just put them in the fucking credits? Like, I can't even believe.
You know why,
that
Nick?
seems
They,
criminal.
and,
You know
and like
why?
they don't understand why it's a problem.
It's a day one patch to get it in there.
Yeah.
And so
Well, no,
people
but-
don't like day one patches.
No,
so.
they do it to try to encourage people not to leave the company
They don't-
before the game ships.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
but like,
So then they can lay you off.
but like that in and of itself is just disgusting.
Yeah.
It's
No, it's
I mean,
pretty gross. It's
it's-
like a gross tactic because it's like, I mean, someone could have. Yeah.
and it's kind of it sucks even more because this is an issue that's come up with Rockstar before.
But here's the thing. Most game industry, most companies are like this.
Yeah.
It's not like Rockstar gets a lot of publicity because it's a big company.
Yeah.
And Red Dead Redemption 2 is a big game, and Rockstar is known for putting out big games. So yes, their crunching might be a little more and a little more noticeable and whatnot, but trust me, like every industry has this.
Oh yeah, I mean that's
And-
one thing that's come up a lot is that like video games are just finally getting a spotlight shined on it.
And once again, a lot of the companies do have, not all of them are, you have to work 100 hours a week, but yes, you get the fucking side eye,
Yeah.
and it's like, you came in late the past couple of days. You know, it's
like,
a lot
I
of
didn't come
shit
in late.
like that.
I came in when I'm supposed to be.
But
Yeah.
then some industries are, regulated or they have unions or. And
I
think
guarantee
one
you,
of the
Brad,
problems with-
I guarantee you will not anytime soon find any kind of programming industry that will have a union. I guarantee you.
I believe it, but I feel like with video games specifically, they prey on the fact that like it is a passion driven thing because all these young people love video games. They're easily replaceable, and it's like, well, it's because this is the thing that they grew up doing and they love, right? As opposed to other programming jobs where it's like, I don't really care about this piece of grocery store software that I'm working on, right? But
Sure.
but this is Red Dead, so you should want to work 100 hours, and if you don't care about video games. So we'll find someone who does,
Yes.
because that's probably not hard to find.
Because it's unfortunate because it's like I do want to work on Red Dead, but I also would like my wife to stay with me. I would like
Yeah.
my family to
No, there's definitely
have
a lot of
father
that,
around. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like it's just like it's fucking garbage.
It's easier to leave. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, we don't need to go too much more. We've talked about it a lot.
Read
the article.
Yeah, Schreier did the
eye-opening.
work. He interviewed like over
A lot of people.
like 75 people between current and former employees. It's exhaustive. It's a very interesting read.
He hits on pretty much everything.
He goes into like this stuff way better than any of us can.
And one thing I think is interesting too is that you're starting to see, like, if you read a lot of the reviews, because Red Dead reviews hit this morning, a lot of those reviews do mention crunch as like as a point of contention in their reviews and whatnot, and not necessarily in relation to the game itself, but like what kind of like how that should maybe impact the way you look at the game or how you consider buying the game or whatever it may be. The fact that it's starting to trickle down and creep into reviewed products, I think, is maybe
Well, just
telling
talking
of how
about
important
it's a good thing
Yeah, absolutely.
because image is very important to very large companies. And like this stuff will lead to maybe not significant changes, maybe not right away, but things like, hey, we're going to post on the website everyone who's ever worked on this game. That is.
They certainly aren't going to make these changes on their own.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
they have to be
because
pushed.
they don't have to, because they put out a game and it's every new game from Rockstar is the new highest rated game ever. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So we'll kind of leave it at that. I like I said, like Brad said, read the article. It's very, very interesting. Good read. And also stay tuned after the show. We'll be playing Red Dead Redemption 2.
Red Dead Redemption.
But let's go ahead and move on from news. We got a lot of community stuff to go through in terms of questions, and I want to go ahead and, of course, do the last part of our supporter spotlight, which is something new we're doing. If you're a supporter of us on Patreon at the $3 tier or higher, you are eligible to become the supporter spotlight. We pick one every month, and we give you a series of questions that are gaming related. You get a chance to, it kind of gives you a platform to talk about your passion, talk about the things that you enjoy and things that you want to communicate to the community about games. And we read your responses during the show. And this is our last week to feature KNC Cito. We did his top 5 games of all time.
It's been a good month, KNCC.
It has been. And at the beginning of the show, we announced November, Dr. Waltz is going to be our supporter spotlight. For next month, for November, which I will start reading his responses next week. So we have 2 things we want to read from KNC Cito. The first one was, what is your most cherished gaming-related memory? And he says, back when I first started college, I was in a new place without many of my high school friends, so I was mostly alone at the start. However, there was a central area with TVs where people hung out or played video games, mostly Smash Bros. Melee at the time. So one day, I brought my PS2 and brought Tekken 5, the only multiplayer game I enjoyed playing. Soon, people came by, and after a little while, I had a small group of college friends who wanted to play Tekken all the time. We weren't really good, nor were we trying to be the best Tekken players in America, but we had a lot of fun trying to be the best in the group. Looking back now, I'm pretty sure I can beat them all if we were to meet up again, considering I still casually play the series. But it was thanks to them that made me want to take the series more seriously and actually learn how to play. That's very cool. Video games can connect people.
Bring people together. It's beautiful. I love it.
It is a beautiful thing. Hell, that's why we get together every Thursday night to talk about video games with all these lovely people watching us on Twitch. It makes this whole thing a little bit more collaborative and exciting. So, and
whatever you need to tell yourself, Nick.
Should I read his 4-player minute now, or actually do it during the 4-player?
I'm doing the 4-player minute.
All right. Cool. We'll do it during the 4-player minute. Of course, we wrap up the month, give them an opportunity to do their own 4-player minute. So we'll read that at the end of the show. But now we want to read some questions from our supporters on Patreon. Nolan, do you want to read them, or do you want?
I got it ready.
Cool.
Well, first we have 2 new patrons.
We do.
Yes. Haas 3000.
Awesome.
And
I think I saw Haas 3000 in chat a little while ago.
Trey.
What is it?
Trey.
Oh, Trey. Gotcha.
Trey.
Thank you guys, Haas and Trey. We really appreciate it. Trey. That is awesome.
We actually have a lot of questions this week.
Yeah.
So
do you see one from? There should be one from Uranium.
It's on
Bullet.
there.
Okay, cool.
It's on there. All right, so let's. We have 27 minutes.
So let's get
lightning round.
This is the lightning round.
Metal button. Further to vent about Assassin's Creed entries, is there any long-running series that don't number their games that confuse the hell out of you dummies when looking to go back and play them in order? A movie series can apply as well for watch order for every year's Metal Button.
You want to talk
The
about
Witcher books? I don't know what order they go in.
I'll tell you what. For
Halloween movies.
Well, the Halloween fucking movies, yeah.
Yeah, but none of them matter.
The crazy thing about the Halloween was is now, because even if you say you have Halloween 1 and then you have 2, I would say 2 decent sequels, right?
Yeah.
2 direct sequels to the first movie, which is Halloween H2O and Halloween, the new one in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch the first Halloween with the intention of watching the sequel, you now have 2 choices that are alternatives to each other.
Yeah.
So it's like a choose your own adventure. Which future?
Also, there was the Halloween, the Rob Zombie Halloween too.
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
I agree with you on that one, Brad.
Wait,
what you just said?
Wait, what did
I
you
didn't
book?
say anything.
You said the book series.
The book series.
Yeah.
No, I said the
you
Witcher
said that?
book series.
Oh, the
sorry.
Witcher book series. Yeah,
The Witcher books. I don't know what order they go in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can wiki that.
I can wiki it.
You can wiki anything, Brad.
Well, the one I'm about to say,
Wiki.
I've looked at wikis and I'm still fucking confused. It is any like ArcSys fighting game series, like the BlazBlue games. Like they all have weird fucking names, and like I still don't know when one of them is actually the next one versus just
like a re-release of
a re-release or an expansion of a previous one, because they always get new subtitles. None of them are numbered, so like
Yeah.
you know, I never know when to jump in because it's so confusing. It's such a mess.
Man, you know, we played, Carlos and I played a little bit of Silent Hill Shattered Memories last night, and I don't understand how that fits in.
It is a complete reimagining of the first game.
I know, but
doesn't matter.
But
you know what's
not.
interesting about that? The next question, because we have a lot more questions, from Haas 3000, one of our new patrons. And this is actually a really good question. You guys seem to talk a lot about hot dogs, and dressing wieners can be somewhat of a contentious subject, much like pizza preferences.
Okay.
Therefore, I am wondering, how do you
Mustard and
prefer
onions
your
only.
hot dogs? For example, my preference is a hot dog with mustard, barbecue sauce, raw red onions, and fresh jalapenos.
Raw red onions?
Fresh
No.
jalapenos?
Ooh, fresh jalapenos are amazing on anything.
They're too spicy.
They are spicy as hell, but they taste amazing.
Yellow mustard,
Pickled.
white onions.
What?
That's it. Yellow mustard, white.
So for me, it depends. It depends
Yellow
if I'm
mustard,
doing
no
if I'm
onions.
doing a chili cheese dog. That's going to be different from like a regular hot
Yeah.
dog because I like two different styles of hot dogs. Either I want it with chili and cheese and just that, or if I'm just going with a classic hot dog, ketchup, relish, and
Are we just talking like hot dogs? Or
And
are we
that's
talking
it.
like
Yeah.
like
I thought
like
penises
dogs,
too.
like
what about-
canines.
like no like what about when like the place we go to in LA when we go to E3? Like
Those are sausages.
those
are-
That's
that's-
completely
those
different.
are
sausage.
completely
That's
separate
completely-
thing. Okay.
yes.
Like a sausage, like a fine artisanal sausage, maybe should have some sort of like deli style mustard with it, or it should have nothing because the sausage is the star of that show.
I'm gonna gracefully disagree with you. I also think now that we've made that distinction, I don't think I eat hot dogs. I can't remember the last time I ate a hot dog.
I have one in my freezer. You want me to go grab it?
No, it's been on
Like an
it's
all-beef
It's been on
Frank?
Crispy's upper lip.
No, I threw that one in the trash. I have another one in my freezer.
You fucking asshole.
You knew it was gonna happen.
Next question from Mr. Green Toast. Which gaming franchise can you see shift into the horror-themed spin-off game instead of sticking to its established genre? For example, I loved Red Dead Redemption's Undead Nightmare, going fully deep into the zombies uprising unlockable four horses of the apocalypse, which I will say I actually finished that on the stream.
Was
on
that your
Tuesday.
first time finishing
How
that one?
long
No,
is
I
that?
finished that before.
It's
not
like
that long.
15 hours.
It depends if you like do everything.
Oh, if you
can
do
it
everything,
pretty
you can
quick.
blast through it
I
pretty
didn't
quick.
start it
I mean,
Tuesday.
you just do the main
I finished
story.
it Tuesday. I had started it, I believe, when I looked at my save file, March of this year.
I tried playing that. I kept riding my horse into like water and shit, and he can't swim at all.
I did it once during my
Jesus
stream on
fucking
Tuesday.
Christ. Can he swim in this new one?
I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
I don't know.
I mean,
So
maybe.
You know what,
Don't
Brad?
ask us questions.
Brad, I'll let you know in an hour.
We'll
Okay.
talk.
were the Apocalypse Horsemen based on the horsemen of the apocalypse, or based
They
off
were-
the description
okay,
of
that
their
is not the
horses?
question.
They were
Yes.
horses based off the horsemen.
Right. Okay.
So anyway, a franchise you see going horror?
Pokemon.
Ooh.
Ghost type Pokemon.
It was
There's
just
that
all
one
about
part.
ghost type?
There's that one part in fucking Red and Blue in
Lavender Town.
Lavender Town. That's
Yeah.
fucking creepy.
Something
It is.
going horror. That's a really good fucking question.
Yeah.
I feel like I've had a couple of these in mind, but taking something like
You know what? I would love to see Devil May Cry. You know, because the first Devil May Cry was kind of was supposed to be was originally supposed to be a Resident Evil game, and it kind of kept this like dark gothic horror feel to it. But like, imagine like taking those like action mechanics, but placing it, but like making the actual atmosphere and environment around that kind of like horror-esque. I think that could be cool.
God, this is a good
What
question.
about that's tough.
Wait, what were you gonna say?
Well,
I was thinking like I'm trying to think series like I'm trying like a long running like Assassin's Creed. I could see them. I'm surprised they haven't done.
But it would
something
have to be
horror.
it would have to be something like rooted in history somewhere, but like a creepy time in history. or
Zombies are rooted in history to an extent. I mean,
something. Sure.
It would be cool to take something like Castlevania, which is, for a long time has been real kind of like fast-paced and arcadey, and sort of take it more back to its roots, but put it in something like kind of like a Soulsian, really dark, oppressive world, and make every encounter like kind of scary.
Yeah, like you're exploring Dracula's castle,
Yeah,
but
and
like you're
Dracula's
not
castle was fucking freaky.
right, but you're not like Alucard who
Yeah.
can just like fucking murder people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even Belmonts are good at murdering things, but
Sure.
Smelly, I was thinking about the Persona series, but the problem is that series is always so lighthearted.
I mean,
It'd
it
be
would
interesting to
It
see.
would be horror
that
because
was
there are like ghosts and ghouls, but it would still be like
Metroid.
it would
So.
still be
Fuck this. Do you remember when Gears of War was basically going to be a horror game?
Yeah.
Where like you couldn't go into the dark and shit. Like, do you remember like when that game was first in development? It was much more of like a horror game about like managing light and shit like that, and had nothing to do with all the fucking muscly bros just like fighting wars and shit.
Yeah, that could've
I
been
think
cool. Are you talking about the original Gears of War or
Yeah, the original Gears of War, when they first introduced that game and we're talking about, it was basically pitch black the game.
yeah. But then they went full Chronicles of
Full
Riddick.
muscle
Hey,
right,
I was like Metroid. I think could go horror.
That could be good.
Yeah,
Really
absolutely.
easily.
Next
Yeah.
question from Fuzzy Turd. As someone who grew up with Tobey Maguire as Spidey, I was very excited to see the Into the Spider-Verse trailer because of the memories of Peter Parker that were shown. They were clips from the Raimi movies, so I'm seeing this as the Spider-Man 4 we never got. Who is your favorite version of Spidey on the big screen?
Well, I mean, I think
We have, I guess, three options.
we have
if we're going
Tobey
with
Maguire,
Andrew Garfield,
Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland. I mean, I think Tom Holland's phenomenal Spider-Man, and maybe more importantly, a phenomenal Peter Parker. And it's
Spider-Man 3, Tobey Maguire's the best Spider-Man.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I'm probably gonna get some shit for this, but the movies may not be the best in the series, but like I was pretty fond of Andrew Garfield's version, just because it was kind of a departure from like he was more of kind of like Peter Parker's supposed to be like kind of a nerdy, awkward high school kid, right?
Sure.
And Andrew Garfield's take was more like
hot, nerdy, awkward.
Andrew Garfield was not
but
good
he
nerd.
wasn't. But
He was a fucking cool kid.
I know, and that's
cool.
kind of why I like it. It was just it was a different take on it. Like he wasn't. And I'm not saying I still value those parts.
I
want to
see a Batman where Batman's poor. Different take on it.
Sure, I mean, but like that wouldn't make any sense. But I'm just talking about personality. Why?
all his gadgets were like made of
I think-
cardboard.
Yeah,
I mean, I would watch
think,
that, yeah.
I think Tobey Maguire was probably like the best Peter Parker.
I agree with that.
Like I think I really think Tobey Maguire did a really good job. He definitely is Tobey Maguire, so he's kind of just like weird compared to the others. But Andrew Garfield, I think, did a good job. But I think he was cast because he just kind of looks like generic leading man, And I think Tom Holland has done a really good job as like in costume Spidey. Like I kind of buy him a little more as like I think his delivery is a little better than Toby's was on like.
But for me, that's almost on directing. Like, hey,
absolutely.
Let's do that line one more time, or don't worry,
sure.
go web go.
I mean, that's
Great
as
line.
much. That's
Let's
as
go with
much
that.
like that's as much about script and director.
He
as
also, I
anything,
think, just looks the part more than any of them.
All right, let's move on. Adam asks, with certain governments looking to regulate the gambling features of some games with loot box mechanics, will we begin to see legislation that will levy a greater tax on company using this business model when selling either the game or loot box components? As for these governments seen as gambling, which in many states they hold strict control, and this is very wordy, and no periods, strict control over the means, the fund, logic. Essentially, are we going to be seeing more government regulation?
I mean,
and how is
we
that
kind of
gonna
went through
it's
this
gonna-
already, didn't we? Like in terms of like we saw them try to in certain states.
I don't think. I mean, they should. Yeah, I've definitely like come to think that they really probably should be doing something. I don't think the answer in this country, at least, is going to come in the form of taxing companies at a higher rate, just because
Probably
that's
not.
just not how anything in our society seems to work.
Nope.
Although other country stuff is going down,
Right.
It seems like
Right.
with these,
which
new
will
boxes.
affect how they do business everywhere.
I mean, at the very least, I think this will get companies to maybe clean up their shit a little bit, and you're seeing more and more companies revealing the odds of actually getting some of these things, so which is good. But
Absolutely.
Legislation, I don't know.
That's
a complicated
I would like
question.
to point in the. We had a long conversation about like the ins and outs of this when it was topical, because it came up a few months ago, I think. I just don't know which episode to point you to.
We were definitely talking about it during.
Yeah, we did.
During Shadows of War.
Yes.
we did. That's what it was.
All right.
So right around the time Middle Earth Shadows of War came out.
Moving on, we got more questions. Chai asks, for no particular reason at all, what are some of your favorite scenes from Western movies? Two immediately come to mind are the scene where they ask Doc Holliday why he follows Wyatt Earp in Tombstone, and the, quote, "You the one who killed our friend" scene in Open Range.
Okay.
The shootout at the end of Open Range is really good.
Yeah, that one's good.
Yeah.
God.
Basically every scene from Blazing Saddles.
Everything. Yeah.
Every
yeah.
fucking scene
That
from
movie's
Blazing
great.
Saddles. We need a shitload of dimes.
Yeah. Yep. Fistful of Dollars.
I was gonna say.
The three coffins, the two coffins,
Ooh,
coffins scene, which is lifted directly from Yojimbo. He does like exactly the same thing where he tells the coffin maker to get two coffins ready, and then he goes and picks and fight with these guys and fucking like cuts them down, and then is like, oh, sorry, I meant three coffins. Like, it's so fucking good. Like, it is classic. That. Oh yeah, I don't know everything from all three of those dollar movies.
Oh yeah, that whole the Stranger with No Name.
Yeah,
that whole series. Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It's so fucking good.
I'll
I
be
know
honest,
it's
The
looked back
showdown
on.
at the end of Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
I know it's
in the
looked
middle
back
of the
on, and
graveyard.
everyone kind of overhypes and stuff. But like, go fucking watch that movie.
I would
It's so good.
I need to, and this is probably my biggest shameful secret right now, especially considering how excited
Have
I
you
am
seen
for Red
any
Dead.
of that series?
Dude, I am shamefully behind.
High
on
Plains
Westerns.
Drifter.
What's
I can't even remember
The
the
Man
last
with No
Western
Name.
La Arena.
Yeah.
is really good.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, if you want a western that is just like fucking nuts, like batshit crazy, like you should look up a movie called El Topo. There's a lot of just
I
fucking
haven't seen that one.
crazy absurd.
Is
It's
that something what people look for? When
it's
they're looking for
Alejandro Jodorowsky, and in El Topo is largely considered to be like the original like midnight movie because it's fucking weird. It is like the text of acid western. It is insane. It is insane.
acid western?
Yeah.
That's a new genre.
All right, we got
All right.
2 more questions in
Yes,
14 minutes.
acid western.
Zolkron, in a bizarre turn of events, you have locked one of the 4-player podcast crew members in a room with and will not allow their freedom until they finish a challenging game. Which game do you choose and why? If it's okay with who's locked in what, and why if it's okay with who is locked in the room. My game of choice would be Battletoads. That's what he said.
What's our motivation for wanting to lock people in with a game?
I mean, I feel like I've been locked in a room
Whatever.
and forced to play Link to the Past from
Like,
start to
like
finish.
it's a game that you want them
They
to
said
play, or it's a game
challenging
you
game.
want to torture them with.
Any game can be challenging if you're forced to do it in one sitting.
Yeah, sure, but I mean that's not the.
Uh,
I mean,
Tetris.
what is the? Why do we want to lock this
because it's the
person?
fucking question, Brad. Stop
I'm
stalling.
assuming that the concept behind the question is that like there's a game that I really want Nick to play, so I'm going to lock him in a room until he plays it because I really want him to experience the game.
Yeah, and my
I don't think
answer
that's
might
what
be
he
different
said.
for Crispy versus Brad.
Is it just supposed to be torture?
Yes, that's why he chose Battletoads.
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's supposed to be like I would
Crispy,
choose
no
a
one
different
wants someone
game.
else to play Battletoads.
No, I don't know about that though. I mean,
Battletoads was.
there's like a
What,
there's
Brad?
Like,
Battletoads was what?
People liked Battletoads.
Why
It
did
was
they like
just-
Battletoads?
at
was
the
just
very
too
least,
hard.
there's a meme culture around
Exactly.
Battletoads. Like
They like it because it's memey.
people think.
Well,
they like
actually, back then it was because the graphics were good.
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
I would force Brad. I would lock Brad in a room and force him to play Paranormal Activity from start to
Oh,
finish
jeez.
in VR.
man, fuck that. I would make. I would
Because
make.
that was some good entertainment.
I would make Nick play the Neverhood because I think it's a good game.
Is that the
the
claymation?
claymation one? And I think it would drive you insane.
I would lock Nick in a room and make him play.
as fuck.
I would lock Nick and Crispy in a room with 2 TVs, I guess, 2 systems, and force them to play Valkyria Chronicles 4 because I don't think, unless I lock them in a room, they're going to get through that game to this year.
Ooh.
You might
I
be
would
right.
I would lock Nick in a room.
Why is it always me?
And I would make him play that new game that's like the pickup game where you have to pick up ladies.
Oh, what?
Because Nick would fucking hate every second of it.
You have to pick up lady.
Yeah.
I would lock Nolan in a room and force him to play Desert Bus.
What?
The fuck is Desert Bus?
The Desert Bus. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Desert Bus.
the
the
bus
Bus in the desert.
Yeah, I
the
played-
Desert Bus. Yeah.
Who's
Desert Bus?
it's kind of famous because there's a charity. There's a group who plays it for charity every year. But the game is famously all you do is you drive from like one city to the next. I forget the cities in a bus. In the
11
desert,
minutes.
and like the bus is slightly like veers off course, so you can't just. It's like real time, so you have to drive for hours and hours, and like you can't just put the controller
Right, you
down
have to
because
hang on
like
to it.
like the alignment is off a little. It is part of a collection of games
you
that
eat
were
meat, Brad?
that were put out by what's the comedy duo with the tall guy and the guy who doesn't talk.
I don't know.
Oh, Penn and Teller.
It's a Penn and Teller game.
Okay.
And
Any
famously,
Penn and Teller game?
this
Like there's
de-
others?
No, it's this Penn and Teller collection. It's kind of like a joke. And there's this. Okay, just go on. Nothing matters on this podcast.
I was into it. I wasn't giving.
Y'all should look it up. It's interesting.
Desert Bus.
Desert Bus.
right.
Desert Bus for Hope. I think.
Final
is
question
the-
this evening from Uranium Bullet. Hey guys, so happy to finally support the show. So my first question is a simple one. I'm very financially savvy, and I'm always looking for opportunities to save money via coupons, discount sales, while maximizing benefits and bonuses, pre-order incentives, for example. I was curious which retailers you prefer doing business with the most, if you have any consumer tips and tricks when buying from them. Amazon's removal of the 20% discount for pre-orders is what sparked this question for me. I'm curious if Nick or Crispy has any GameStop purchasing / trade-in tips House, having worked there. Have a great show, guys. Heart.
I still do most of my shopping with Amazon purely because the convenience of not having to go to the store. Like it sucks that the 20% discount is gone, but it wasn't a deal breaker for me. And as far as like GameStop stuff goes, like
Hurry, Nick, it doesn't matter.
when you get to the
Crispy.
oh my god, whatever. Okay.
No, I want to hear what Nick has to say because I don't think there's any benefit to shopping at GameStop.
The only thing I can think of when it comes to benefit from
even
GameStop,
though I do, even though it's where I buy my
for
games,
me,
but
if-
I'm
if-
not.
if you're
I'm
not-
shitty with my money.
If you're
like,
not
so-
big on keeping your games and you're big, you buy a lot of games, then trading them is one thing.
if you don't
but I'm-
mind, if you really think you're never gonna touch a game again, and you don't mind like getting fucking shafted on the value of it just to like roll forward a discount to the next game, which is kind of how I live my life, and it's a really shitty thing that I would never recommend anybody else does, then yeah, GameStop is fine. But like, I mean, I don't know. It's like I was looking up trade values the other day because I was like desperate, and
We all know it sucks. Doesn't matter.
it's fucking terrible.
Hey,
and they don't do deals. They don't do like sales that are worth it.
I read
really.
a lot of stuff from GameFly. I buy a lot of stuff from GameFly sales and Steam sales because that's really the only way I can afford this hobby at this
That's
point.
what I wanted to say. So there's two really good answers for this. One is GameFly if you're looking for console games, because it's very good because you can always often cheaply keep the game because they'll go on sale or whatever.
On the day they launch, it's $44.99 just to keep it. And as soon as you do that, they'll send you the case and you're playing the game at launch, which means it's a brand new copy of the game.
Secondly, if you're doing PC games, Green Man Gaming and GOG are really good places to find deals. I got Hitman 2. I pre-ordered it on GOG for like $43 or something like that. Yeah, so I mean, I would lean towards that.
And follow Wario 64.
Yeah, following Wario, that's dangerous though. That's dangerous.
You spend a lot of money if you do that potentially.
So that's all the questions we had from patrons this week. Thanks everybody. All of our patrons who asked a question, like Nick had mentioned earlier, every week we post a thread on patreon.com/4player where you can ask us any question you want.
Let's wrap things up with the 4-player minute. I got a fuck you lightning round. They're all fuck yous. First one is to that Smash leak, which might be real. They kind of leaked out what is very likely real. The rest of the characters. One of them is Gino from the Mario RPG on the Super Nintendo, and some people are excited about that. But there's no advance war, so fuck you for me for forgetting the final date of Twisted Metal Online. It was October 16th, and I didn't have my Twisted Metal night because it's been a crazy month. Fuck me. Fuck you to the Castlevania Requiem release that just came out, because those are two of like the best and most like revered Castlevania games of all time. They should have done more than just simple ports. Fuck you to me or fuck you to GameFly, or no, fuck you to Rockstar for probably is the reason that GameFly is not releasing Red Dead for another 2 weeks.
Crazy. That is crazy.
It's crazy. So I don't know.
Going back to me recommending GameFly, that does not happen often.
No, that doesn't happen ever.
Yeah, this is like
they
the
sent a
first
special
time.
email out.
Yeah.
It was weird. Fuck you to the Monster Hunter movie by the maker by
Mila Jovovich?
Mila Jovovich, W.S. Anderson, the maker of the Resident Evil movies. The first picture they released was
Looks
a
like
dude.
Resident Evil.
No. The first picture they released was a dude with an assault rifle. So fuck
Wait,
you.
really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Jesus
Yes.
What do you mean?
Yeah. Just look it up. Fuck you to me for forgetting about that new sweary game, The Missing, JJ Macville and the Island of Memories. It's actually got a good review.
Stressing me out.
People
Brad.
cannot shut up about the ending. Apparently, that sweary game has like a really amazing ending, and it's actually got pretty good reviews. Fuck me for forgetting about it. And one final hype is I just got info. I just was browsing like Reset Era when I was looking at news or whatever. Apparently, there's more details on the Medieval remake. It is a full remake, and it is based on the PS1 version of that game. That's very exciting for me, so that's my hype. That's it.
What?
Damn, Brad.
Why is that
Damn,
a
that is
thing?
I think that is literally the fastest you've ever done.
Why would they
a
do
4-player minute? All right, Crispy, go.
Why would they do that? My hype this week is for Spellbreak. Actually,
Spellbreak.
The fuck is
Spellbreak. Maybe you've heard of this. This is a new battle royale game that just went into like a pre-alpha, like restricted beta. But the whole idea is that you are wizards in this, so all of your attacks and everything are spells. And get this, the spell system works just like Divinity: Original Sin. So all the spells are elemental based, and they all like synergize with each other and like combine and do like crazy things. My thank you for this week goes to Kenton for giving me a code to Spellbreak, because he actually had a few extras, so that's how I was able to play, because right now they're just doing like a restricted alpha sort of thing. But like we played a little bit yesterday, and stop fucking stressing me out, man. It's fucking incredible. You should look up a trailer for that, like, just to see what they're doing. I don't think you're actually going to play it or anything, but you should just see what it looks like, because it's fucking cool. It's fucking crazy.
Is it like first person?
No, it's third person.
Okay.
But it is fucking crazy, like the way all these spells like combine and stack on each other and like do all these crazy things. When people get into fights in this game, it is like fucking chaos. It is insane. So hype. Thank you. Another hype. Obviously, Red Dead Redemption 2. Hopefully, Carlos didn't fuck me over, and it's at my house already.
He's gonna play a prank and it's gonna open up. It's gonna be like Nacho Libre. I saw a post.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why I let myself make that deal.
Why you entrusted Carlos with this task?
And what was that? 2 thank yous. Oh yeah, and my fuck you goes to Dan Hauser. Pay your people for their work, please.
Or don't make them kill
pays
themselves.
them.
Cool.
You know.
All right, my 4-player.
He doesn't pay them overtime.
Now, my hype is for Mutant Year Zero: Road to Eden. I'm actually getting a preview copy of that. It's not the full game. It's like a kind of like an extended demo next week probably. I'm very excited. The game doesn't launch until December. I'm excited to check that out. It's kind of XCOM-y, but there's like weird mutant things. Like
and you can actually walk around the world.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. My second hype is obviously for Red Dead. In 3 minutes.
I moved the tweet back about 10 minutes, so I think we're...
Okay, so in 3 minutes then, Red Dead. Very excited. My sweat goes to Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I've been playing that on Project Stream, but I don't know if I'm going to continue just because of all the other fucking games that are coming out.
But it's working a lot better, right?
It is. It is actually, okay. That is one thing. It is actually playing a lot better recently. And then... I had a thank you from a chatter from my Tuesday stream, but I can't remember what it was.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone who showed up for my Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare. That was pretty good. So thanks for that.
Nick, go! Nick, go!
My fuck you of the week goes to Rockstar. Not necessarily because of the crunch culture thing, of course, but also because of the way they've kind of screwed the independent game stores. Most independent game stores are not getting copies of Red Dead until next month, and they sprung it on
GameFly.
They sprung it on them. There is talk of people who own their own shops out there who like spent their a bunch of their own marketing money to like buy a bunch of stuff to promote Red Dead, and then found out that they're not getting shipments until November after people have been pre-ordering, which really fucking sucks.
What's going on? They're bullying. They're bullying these people because they know they can get away with it.
They're doing it because most leaks happen from independent stores.
Yeah.
From
sure. So
they don't want spoilers out there, so they're not giving it independent. That's my theory, at least. My thank you of the week goes to Robin, who went out and picked up my copy of Red Dead and installed it for me while I was recording this exact podcast you're listening to right now. So thanks for doing that. My sweat goes to.
I heard a ding.
Oh God!
Hurry, Nick!
It's 10:59.
Oh my
Nick! Nick! Just say something.
Valkyria Chronicles 4 is your sweat.
I'm literally sweating. How's that?
Okay, God damn it!
My hype goes for my Red Dead stream tomorrow. I'm starting at 8 a.m.
Oh my God! Just go.
8 to 5. I fucking hate you. 8 to 5 o'clock tomorrow. I'll be live at 8 a.m.
Jesus, pimp it after the podcast.
In full cowboy gear.
KNC,
oh my
I
God.
fucking hate you guys. All right, our final 4-player minute for tonight is from KNC Cito. He says, my hype is, I think by the time this is read, Soul Calibur 6 will already be out and I will be playing it. But as of the writing, I'm very hyped for it. Tekken and Soul Calibur are my favorite fighting games, and after seeing how good of a game Tekken 7 is, I'm excited for the new installment and upcoming tournaments of Soul Calibur 6. Sweat! Playing Monster Hunter World on PC, as well as a recent purchase of a 4K TV for my living room, has made me realize that I might need/want a new graphics card for my computer. I don't really have any computer hardware knowledge, so I'm not sure on what I need in order to properly upgrade. I also know that it's probably going to cost me a bunch of money. So researching and getting over the future loss of money is what I'm sweating about these days. My thank you of the week goes to, I'd like to thank my friends, even though it's unlikely they'll hear this. For the past year, I've been attempting to gain weight, 140 pounds to 150, and exercise more to get into shape. I was skinny, out of shape, if that makes sense. Although I don't really think I've gained much muscle, their constant urges to have me flex my arms and the subsequent really loud "ooh" has been of them being impressed by my supposed muscles is entertaining and heartwarming. So thank you. Well, that's nice.
How delightful.
How delightful. My fuck you of the week goes to
Tito, hurry!
fuck you goes to I don't really have much to say fuck you to, so I'm going to say fuck you to summer. I hate this heat and humidity, and I hate bugs, so I'm really happy
There
fall
you go.
has finally arrived. Sweater weather is the best.
Sweater weather.
And that's it. We got through it. Boom. Thank you, KNC Cito,
And that's it. That's the
for your full
episode.
minute. That's it. Good night. Close it out.
We love you guys. Bye.
I'm just kidding. Let me close out the show. Thank you guys so much for listening. Join us again next week for another episode. We'll be talking about a shit ton of Red Dead. You can watch Nolan in just a few minutes play Red Dead on the stream. You can also tune in tomorrow. I'll be playing a bunch of Red Dead. You'll be seeing a shit ton of Red Dead
Why is
all week
this in
long,
the
I'm sure.
podcast?
Shut the fuck up, Nolan. Or Krispy.
Oh my god.
Good night. 4playernetwork.com, discord.gg/4player, patreon.com/4player. Find us there.
Folder Brad on Twitter.
Fuck you. Fuck you, Brad. Oh my god. Good night. We'll see you next week.
We're 2 minutes late.
Oh my god, that was so stressful.